All right, you're good. Now we're good. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. This is the April 16th regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Health. We have everyone present. We have a quorum. Jim, Meredith Ruppery, Ann Smith, Tom Dixon.
Here.
And Carrie
Here.
McKenna.
Present.
Okay. As always, this meeting is being audio and visually recorded. And I'd like to say that the Parks and Recreation Commission is here in full. And I think Mike Kozarth is going to speak about that.
Yes, I'm not going to speak to the issue right now, but
Right.
I do want to acknowledge, in the interest of transparency and avoiding a previous situation, to open the meeting of Parks and Rec, which was originally scheduled today for 5 o'clock due to this and the number of people who wanted to attend from the Parks and Rec Commission. I'd like to formally open that meeting. We have 2 members who are here, and I think that there's at least one, Gina O'Callahan. I'm not sure if Merrill McCluskey is on, or Jesse Dutra. Those would be, but we need 3 to be able to open the Gina O'Callahan.
I see Gina's.
And Merrill is here? Okay, great. Is that sufficient, Madam Chair?
Yes, that is.
Thank
You have a
you.
quorum.
Thank you.
Our next thing is public comment, and that will be about any matter that is not on this agenda.
Can I make my statement first?
No, because this is public comment. I think we, is there anyone online? John, can you see?
Nope, not seeing anyone.
Okay. Since there's no one wanting to speak about other issues, we'll go on to number 3, which is approval of the minutes. We have to approve a bunch of minutes because the last time we met, there were a couple of minutes that were not available to approve. So I think we take them one at a time. The first one would be February 19th, 2026. That was a regularly scheduled meeting. Any questions or comments on those minutes?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I didn't see these until these went up in our packet yesterday and with select board and all the other committees and stuff. I just didn't have a chance to look at them. Is it okay if we hold these until next month?
Sure, although I guess if everybody else has seen them and is all right with them, we could go ahead and approve them without you. But yeah, that's fine. So you haven't seen any of them?
No.
All right, so you're asking that we continue till next month?
Yeah, it doesn't need a motion.
Okay, that's fine with me. Director's update. But before the director updates, I would like to say something. This is Rocky's last meeting with the Board of Health, and I would just like to thank him and say that we will miss him and we wish him well.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Rocky Miramontes, Public Health Director. And likewise, I've had the opportunity to work with you all now for about 1.5 years, and it's been wonderful. Thank you. switched up a little bit. Jericho and John are up front. This is the team you will see up on stage for the next couple of months until the new director starts. I will stay engaged until with the health department until the new director starts. However, my last, I guess, day in the office is next Friday. Just a few updates. Short-term rentals of 1,552 as of yesterday, active registrations. That is consistent with estimates that were developed over the last, I guess, year or two as to what the actual total really is. Last year, there were 1,350 that registered. So there's still more time in, I guess, the season where we may see more registrations, but right now that's where we stand. Health department's going to have 2 interns this summer. One will be focused on tick yard survey. So this is a survey methodology that happens out on the Cape. I'm sorry, on Martha's Vineyard, where they are actually dragging and looking for ticks in individuals' yards. So this person will knock on your door potentially and ask if they can come in and drag your yard to see if there are any ticks there. So it's something that's going to be, it started in a small, with a small number last fall, and it'll pick up again this spring with this new intern. The second intern will be more of a generalist and will be involved with the workings of the health department, including some beach sampling and getting involved with the inspections as they occur. Vaccine ordering is happening for the fall soon. Our flu season has been pretty mild this last winter. Still feels like winter sometimes. We, other than a spike that we had in December and into early January, we've really had a fairly mild season. COVID has kind of been up and down, and all those results are available on their wastewater sampling results online. ServSafe class, of course, just completed. 12 persons passed. ServSafe, as a reminder, is something that has to be, there has to be someone ServSafe certified in all the restaurants on Nantucket. So the more people we can get certified, the better. The health department taught a class, Heather, and 12 people passed. And there's another one, I believe, that's occurring next week. I'm sorry, say? It's right now. It's tomorrow. So more on that next month. And then finally, mosquito surveillance is going to start up again this year in the summer, as it has in previous years, primarily looking at the types of mosquitoes that are being trapped, and that is done by a contractor, and it has been for several years now. That's all I have, unless you have any other questions for me.
Questions, anybody? Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I just want to wish Rocky well in his next role. I really appreciate working with him. Always been around to answer questions, and all the best.
Okay. John, you're on. We have a bunch of septic loans and various things related to that. So I guess we start with number 5, which is 45 Millbrook Road.
Yep, so this is just a release of the loan that was given to this person for upgrade of a septic system. Finance notifies us once the loan has been fully paid off, so the board just needs to vote to release the loan, which will release the lien on the property.
Okay. Motion?
Go ahead.
Motion to release the loan on 45 Millbrook.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Released. Okay. And next we have 10 North Cambridge Street. A little more complicated, but not really. John, go ahead.
Yeah, so on the application, they marked that they did not have a failed Title V inspection, which we actually do have a failed inspection in our health department file. So, so they do have a failed system according to an inspection. it was the failure was due to lack of groundwater separation. It's showing only 3.5 feet. So, and the requirement is for 6 feet in the Nantucket Harbor watershed for a conventional system. We went through the estimates and recommend full approve of the loan request, as it's marked as a primary residence. And one last thing that we noticed is we've tried to update the application based on some comments of some things we've been doing in the past as far as requesting different information actually on the application. So in making that change, we noticed that we omitted a section for a signature at the bottom. So we just need to have the applicant sign the actual application.
Okay. Can we have a motion for approving the loan for the full amount or approving the full amount because this is a year-round resident at 10 North Cambridge?
Motion to approve loan for 10 North Cambridge Street, septic loan.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's done. Now we have 54 Arkansas.
Okay, Madam Chair, for these two Arkansas, these are neighbors of mine.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to recuse myself just for these two. Okay.
Okay. The only thing that I would say on 54 is, according to John's very complete write-up here, this is not a primary residence.
That's correct. And
Anything you need to tell us about 54 Arkansas, John?
nope, we went through the application and the estimates and everything looks good. So we'd recommend approval and with the policy that the board's been going with the half the amount due to it being not a primary residence.
Okay. So that would need a motion for 54 Arkansas
Motion to approve 54 Arkansas.
and a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Motion to approve 78 Arkansas.
That's correct. That's again for half the total amount because they're not a permanent resident. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And 28 Pocomo Road.
This is the same as all the other ones. Yep, it's a non-primary residence. But everything else, the application and estimates all look good.
Okay. We can go ahead and approve that then. Motion for that.
Motion to approve 28 Pocomo Road, loan, septic loan.
You seconded it, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's approved. 48 Lovers Lane.
This is a request for nitrogen loading credits in the Wellhead Protection District located at 48 Lovers Lane. They are asking to go from 330 gallons of flow on the 31,000 foot lot to on a conventional system to 440 gallons per day with incorporation of a nitrogen reducing system. This allows for one more bedroom. The nitrogen reducing system provide a reduction in nitrogen loading from 38 milligrams per liter of nitrogen down to 19 milligrams a liter of nitrogen. The IEA would be more beneficial to the environment in terms of nitrogen loading. And the newly installed system would roughly have a 20-foot separation from the bottom of the SAS or soil absorption system to groundwater, which would help provide for more nutrient treatment. And I recommend approval of this due to the added treatment and the amount of ground separation to groundwater on this. Of course, this falls on the public hearing that's in place for the wellhead protection zone and the board having talking about different things for this for this area. So I do recommend the approval. I think it's another IA system that gets put in this area. So,
Right. Yes. So is open debate for another recommendation for the next person?
it would be,
Well,
There-
let's wait a minute. Why are we gonna do this? Why do you recommend it?
well, I think it's a benefit to the environment as it's going from just 3 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms. And this system would cut the nitrogen loading in half.
I know, but if it's not legal to do it now, why should we start doing it?
Well, as in the past, these had been approved by the board, these variances.
We've never
And-
done it before.
You have done it. You've done it
We
many,
have done it
many,
before.
many times before, yes. And now, of course, with the public hearing, there could be a limit to that, as, you know, we've seen the drafts for that have been proposed for the public hearing. I think this one is, you're going from 3 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms. It's going to be another IA. I can't argue that less is more in any of these cases. I just feel the impact to the environment's minimal with this situation.
Is there an engineer representing? We just don't, what we have for plans is, it looks like what is already there. This is an existing 3-bedroom dwelling. Is there something else happening?
There should have been an updated plan showing the new system. I do have Art Gasparo here. Okay, Art, you're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we provided a plan which showed the concept septic system. In addition to the original filing was done using the record plan for the existing system. It would be a pending design because subject to this approval, then we would do the soil testing and design the system. Or finalize the design. There's been a concept layout based on conditions which are typical for this area, essentially sand and a percolation rate of less than 5 minutes per inch. Your approval would not automatically secure issuance of the permit. The final permit application and full review by the staff would still need to happen.
I guess the issue that is a little perplexing is that we are in the process of looking at a regulation that would not allow extra bedroom credits in the protected districts. Am I correct, Carrie? And-
Yeah, but I think,
But they are not yet complete.
right, they're not yet complete. This application was put in before, under
Yep.
you go in under the rules when you put your application in. And I guess question, is this a failed system or could I said replacing leaking holding tanks? I mean, has it failed or is it just, are we addressing a problem that, getting ahead of it?
Right, I'll let Art respond.
Through you, Madam Chair, no, this is not a failed system. This is so the owner can have an extra bedroom for his family. Again, it's a 3-bedroom to 4-bedroom. There's no additional subdivision or anything else associated here. It's that you would get the IA system, the advanced treatment, the regular operation and maintenance, all of which doesn't occur with a conventional system. In the trade-off for the 1-bedroom, but as far as I know, again, the existing system is functioning. It's a couple of leach pits, but we would essentially replace that entire system, as was shown on the concept plan with new tankage, new processor, filtration, and new soil absorption system. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve was it 48 Lovers Lane? 48 Lovers Lane as presented.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
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 No.
Mary?
I'm gonna say no too.
Okay, well, that is approved 3-2.
Thank you.
Number 7 is 49 Paulus Road, which is something we've been thinking about for quite some time. So I'll let you walk us through that and review where we've been and where we are, John.
Yep. So yeah, as you said, this has been before the board several times now with the request of the board to have the applicant seek out multiple estimates for the work to be done in preparation of preparing for the septic loan to gauge the cost of what all that would entail. I'm not sure if the property owner wants to speak. I can continue to speak, but this, of course, the regulation, chapter 332, article 2, requires properties to connect to town sewer when sewer becomes available to the property. In this particular area, the Nantucket Harbor Watershed, which is defined by the board as an environmentally sensitive area, that regulation says no variance shall be granted for environmentally sensitive areas or areas defined by the Nantucket Board of Health as groundwater or harbor and water body protection districts. And this property is located, obviously, as I said, in the Nantucket Harbor Watershed. Furthermore, this was part of the Shimon sewer plan, which was a significant focus of the town as part of the comprehensive wastewater management project. The primary objective was to transition properties to the municipal sewer system in order to reduce wastewater discharge into Nantucket Harbor, where there have been documented overloading of nutrients, including from septic systems. And this property owner should have received notification from the sewer department. Letters I know were sent out in 2019 and then again in 2021. A variance was issued back in 2023 by the board at that time for 2 more years to connect to town sewer. I guess my opinion, the way that I saw that variance at that time was essentially to function as a grace period to allow the property owner for more time to prepare for the costs and the connection process. Obviously is a tough situation. None of these are fun, obviously, when environmental regulations are put in place and there's economic ramifications to these kinds of things. Obviously, the main focus is to try and have everyone comply. That's what makes the whole project successful. So I wish there was another option that I could see, but I just don't see any kind of alternative, unfortunately. And so my question would be is when will the connection happen? If it is delayed, at what point, when does the connection get made to town sewer? So
And I asked the board, if I could have,
Speak in the
Could I ask-
microphone.
I'm here.
Pull your microphone. Yeah.
could I ask the board if I could have 1 month to try to solve this problem?
Oh. In what way, Jim?
To solve the problem.
Okay, it's not your problem, though. You're gonna try to help the homeowner?
Yes.
I see. Does the homeowner wish to speak?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Inez Hutton. Oh, Hi, it's Inez Hutton and Trisham Coffin. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, I'm here. I don't know if you all had read the various letters that we'd given John. I'm in a situation right now, yes, I would appreciate Jim. That would be wonderful. But on the other hand, I also would like to make everybody realize that if I can read this, the septic system on my property is fine. It's been working and I've had a new septic system put in 2010, 2009, 2010, which was brand new because I had put an addition on my house. And I changed it from a 1 bedroom to a 3 bedroom, and it's the septic system for a 4 bedroom. And also the setup that you require is an electric device to grind up the sewage that I have and pump the waste approximately 700 feet to Pulpus Road. And my question is, what happens if the electricity goes out? The additional electric bill that I'm going to have to pay for the pump, the price of the pump, and I haven't been able to get any prices from anybody to even think about a loan. And the bank that I deal with for what monies I have won't allow me to take out any further loan or mortgage or anything for I don't know how I'm going to pay for it otherwise. So I'm grateful for everybody and your time, but I think Tristan might have something to add.
Have you studied this letter? Where it mentions.
You just stand over here.
Come to the microphone, please.
I don't understand the rush. The system is not in failure. This article suggests these boards need to get together and try to figure out before you start driving year-round residents off the island. Also, the system requires an electric pump because there's a rise of over 2 feet to the town main sewer. So there's a manifest injustice here, I believe, that's causing undue hardship and an undue burden. And I do not understand why the board in its wisdom said there shall be no exemptions for Zone A and Zone B. We do not know when Zone B was brought into effect. I can have, like I mentioned once before, it's the 100-foot conundrum. I can have a well separated from my septic system by 100 feet. But the roughly 10,000 feet to the harbor, you claim is endangering the water. So we have a problem. It's an undue burden. I believe it's a manifest injustice. And you're using a hammer to solve a problem. There's nothing more I can say at this juncture.
I also want to bring up I'm curious, John, about the reference to a variance. I haven't never applied for a variance for this.
I'm just asking if you'll.
The board gave you a variance in 2023 that expired in May of 2025.
That was for my commercial kitchen.
That was for the entire property, is my understanding.
I understood it was for my commercial kitchen because my object was to come before the board to open my kitchen. And that's why Steve Visco came out and pumped the commercials.
They certified it as being okay. It was okay. It was technically failed because it didn't meet the 332 Article 2 business for the harbor. Other than that, the system is fine. The system works. And Jim, I can remember 50-something years ago when I poured the 5 gallons of water down into the hole and you stood there with a watch and did the perk test. This is one individual who's been living there this entire time since we got divorced.
All I'm asking is, nothing's gonna happen within a month. Can I have a month?
What does the board think? I like to hear from
Yeah,
everyone.
in terms of continue, if Jim is willing to work and try to solve the problem, I have information about assorted loan programs and tax credits that I can give you. That, not just the septic betterment loan, but there's tax credits from the state, so there might be several options if it has to go forward that might assist the homeowner. So I'll get that information to you if we do the 1 month continuance.
How is this supposed to be paid for?
Tom, what do you think? This is they've were first notified in 2019 that they needed to connect to the sewer. It's now 2026.
What harm has been done? The system works.
You know, I haven't,
The system works. It's like everybody's systems work for hundreds of years here. When it's in failure, it's another point of order. This system is working. There seems to be a rush to judgment. I don't know why you're in such a hurry when you all haven't even got your act together. According to this article, it was well written. Like, take privilege, excellent article.
I'm open to letting Jim work with them. I think of the five of us, he is the one that knows the most about this topic. So I think that that is a good compromise to say, let's see what can happen in a month. I don't think anything, there's not going to be any undue harm done in 1 month. And I think it's worthwhile. I know you made some suggestions last time. I think that that's a good compromise and say, let's have somebody help them.
As far as I'm concerned, I would be open to that as long as it's not 1 month and another month and another month and
No,
another month.
1 month. 1 month.
Madam Chair. Yeah, I completely agree. As I said last month on a completely separate issue, I hate to say this, but or to be here on this one, but this is a really hard one, and I definitely have sympathy for this. But the regs are the regs, and I think John's memo that was sent to us sort of lays it out. So I was inclined to deny this, but if Mr. Cooper is offering to work for 30 days on this,
1
as
month.
long as it doesn't come back to us next month, and then it's another continuation. It's either it works, it gets worked out, or it's a denial. I'm okay with it.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
So
okay.
do we need to make a motion? to
Make a
approve
motion.
the
Sure, I
continuance?
will make a motion to continue this to our regularly scheduled May meeting.
Thank you.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
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 thank you. Thank you.
Andrew Shapiro. This is our environmental update.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andrew Shapiro, Environmental Contamination Administrator with the Health Department. John, would you please be able to share my slides? I have what will probably be a quick update.
He's hard to hear, John.
Yes, I don't think it's your fault, Andrew, but it's a little bit harder to hear in the room. So if you don't mind just trying to speak up a little bit.
Yep,
Are
no
these
problem.
are
How's
these
that?
the correct slides, Andrew?
I cannot see them. They're not
Oh.
being streamed remotely. They might be up in your meeting room, though.
That's because I failed to hit the share thing.
It is more complicated than it looks to run that computer.
Whoops.
Oh, that's nice.
Not that screen. Well, that's a nice one though. Back go.
Well, I'll jump in on my data update. I have my slides in front of me. So first, wanted to report on new PFAS data from private wells that has come into our health department. I have 14 data points that I'm including in my slides. These are all from our Board of Health regulations or voluntary sampling. So out of that 14, I have 2 detects below the state standard of 20 parts per trillion for the PFAS 6. In addition to that, I have 12 non-detects for the PFAS 6. Since preparing these materials, I have gotten a notice of 2 additional detects above the state standard of 20. One of those is on Arkansas Avenue, and the other is on Mayacamas Avenue. Both were detected in the 30 parts per trillion range. So those are not included on the map or in this data summary, but they will be included in the update next month. So the map that is included in the packet should look very familiar. It includes 14 new data points, but not those 2 new detects above the state standard. You will recognize the histogram as well. No need to go into detail on that for this meeting. And then the last thing I wanted to update you all on is that on June 17th at 5:30 in the fairgrounds meeting room you're all sitting in, as well as online and over Zoom, we'll have a guest speaker, Jim Starbird from RCAP Solutions, which is a nonprofit that assists rural communities such as Nantucket in private well and septic system issues. He'll be talking about private well maintenance. And so he will cover water well basics and construction, maintenance and management of wells, and solving water quality issues, which of course includes PFAS. So this is piggybacking off of our previous speakers who have been on the island. Jim will be on island in person, which will be great to have him in the room you're all sitting in. And this will really be geared towards private well owners. PFAS will be a topic, but if you don't own a private well, it may be a little bit less interesting. And that's all I've got. Happy to take any questions. I hope you all could hear that okay.
Questions? Anybody? No? Okay.
Not today.
Okay. 13 and 14. I think we can take them together because this is the 2 watershed and wellhead, the Hummock Pond watershed and the Wellhead Protection District regulations. And we are, I think, going to vote to continue the public hearing because, as I understand, Carrie can probably tell us more. Yeah, we're not
Yeah, essentially,
completed.
we're meeting with the housing department and affordable housing to work out the specific wording in the variance section that will allow variances to be applied for to meet affordable housing guidelines. And we're just trying to get that so it doesn't create, that it's clear and also doesn't discriminate against any group. So our plan is to submit both regulations to town council next Tuesday, so they'd be ready for the meeting in May or, discussion, have the hearing and possible motion to do it.
I have a question. How does that affect now our other 2 regulations that were already in place? Are we thinking that those variants
Would,
Is there any, Mary, am I interpreting right when you say it? Will this be connected to the existing watershed regs or retroactively applied for?
I just didn't know if we were gonna then also add it so that all 4 of them are the same. I think
oh,
that might-
essentially, will we be going back and amending Nantucket and the harbor?
Right.
And that is a discussion for later. I mean, it's a possibility, but at this point, we're focusing on getting these 2 settled.
Yeah,
Which will at least stay, they would be 95% the same. And the only item that would be different between the 2 sets would be the 1 to 2 Hummock and Wellhead will have an affordable housing clause. The current harbor and Nantucket do not have that clause. That'll be, and if we wanted to change those, that'd be for future discussion. Right now, we're just focusing on those 2 and working out the wording so that affordable housing can be addressed within, our big concern about affordable housing and preserving our aquifer.
thank you very much for all your work, because I don't think this has been easy. I think it's a lot, it's a lot of moving parts.
Moving parts, but people
So
are
I
talking.
appreciate it.
And our goal is to have it ready for Tuesday to submit to town council so that they have time to give it a good review and do any back and forth for it.
Tuesday next week.
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay.
Madam Chair, I have a hand raised. Meg Rulli.
Yep. Meg?
You're on mute.
Hi,
Meg.
thank you. I just unmuted. I know that Ms. Lepre asked this question as well, but I don't think, I feel, I've written letters to you and the select board that I do feel that politics are coming into play when it comes to the health of the island's the public, of Nantucket and their health. And we do have, just had heard from the environmental administrator about the contamination. It's something like 38% of wells are coming up with contamination, 10% of those over the 90 parts per trillion. And I think to direct, or you're essentially steering certain types of housing and giving them special variances in one particular watershed area. I just wonder what town council will look at and if that's something they're going to consider. And rather than sort of backfill in Nantucket and Harbor watershed areas by adding this at a later date, or maybe adding it at a later date, that it should all be at one time. That's just my thoughts.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want to say that when the final regs come out for us to discuss, probably next month, right? I just wanted to say to the commenter that politics has not played a part in this completely. And this has gone through a good process. And I think we'll come out with a better a better final set of regulations because of it that fit into the town strategic plan.
Okay, I think we need a motion to continue the hearing.
Sorry, Madam Chair, Meg has her hand raised again. If you'd
Yes,
like.
Meg.
Sorry, just before you close it, I just want to say I respectfully disagree. I do think politics has played a part in this, and I'm an impacted party where I've had significant contamination that these septic regulations won't help, but it's the first step in really trying to work on the water problem in the tier 2 wellhead area. And I do believe politics is a part from the select board writing a letter to this special meeting where the public was not allowed to comment in February. And, there are impacted parties here, and it's very traumatizing coming to these meetings to have to talk about that. But it is something that's happening island wide. Andrew, from the Environmental Contamination Administrator, has been putting together workshops. I would encourage you to watch them to learn about what happens when you are contaminated, when your well's contaminated, and what happens. And so I think that I understand there is an affordable housing concern and that we need to be thoughtful about that. But I do think the general variance that's in place, like you went through tonight with some of these septic loans, is very efficient and helpful to those people who need to take advantage of it.
Madam Chair, I don't want to get into a back and forth, but I would just say that partially that's exactly those kinds of variances with septic loans is exactly what Carrie's working on. So but this will be up for discussion next month. I'd make a motion to continue this to our regularly scheduled May meeting. Both of the.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Continue to next month. All right, now we get to number 15, which is probably why virtually everybody in this room is here. And it is discussion of the Vito Capizzo Stadium project, inclusive of track, field, and facility at 10 Surfside Road. It's been divided, and I will tell you that this agenda has been written with consultation from town council, and just so you know, it's divided into 3 parts, A, B, and C. A is discussion, ratification, validation, and confirmation of the Vito Capizzo Stadium renovation project, matters raised during the Board of Health meeting on March 19th. That's a lot of big words and fancy language saying that the board intends today to revisit the discussion begun on March 19th. All relevant materials can be found in your packet and or online. In terms of any open meeting law concerns, the response from the board and the town council is complete and posted online and in the meeting packet. So I'm going to talk a little bit before we begin about how this process is going to work. There are two proposals or approaches, we could call them, in front of the board to deal with the stadium field project. They are 15B and 15C. They will be discussed one at a time. Town council is present at the meeting and will enter in as needed. The board will have the opportunity to ask questions after each presentation, but no votes will be taken at that time. Following the presentation of both approaches, there will be public comments lasting for 30 minutes, 3 minutes or less per speaker. The Land and Water Council and Nantucket Public Schools have each requested to speak and will go first. 15B will be Andrew Shapiro and Jericho Mille speaking on a joint agreement being worked out between the Health Department, Nantucket Public School, and the Land and Water Council, ensuring safety of the turf material and monitoring of a possible field. 15C is a presentation about a proposal from the vice chair on a moratorium. Town council is here tonight and would like to address elements of this. Following public comment, members of the board will be able to ask further questions and clarifications. At this time, the board will evaluate where it stands on the turf matter. So I also want to say, when we have 15B, that when Andrew was speaking before, I really had some trouble hearing him. And if he's going to be one of the main presenters, I think, can we get him to be a little clearer?
At this point, I don't think so.
He can't turn up.
I don't believe it's on his end. I believe it's the middle speakers here.
Oh.
And there is a giant mixing board up there that I am not gonna touch.
I'll try and text.
There is a giant mixing board up there that I'm not gonna fiddle with.
Of course not,
In
no.
the midst of the meeting, but I think we have a call in or a text into tech support that should be able to help. Andrew, if you would just, I guess, speak up.
Talk as loud as you can, Andrew.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I need to make a statement before this starts. That in full transparency, I am currently on medical leave from my position to care for my daughter who had surgery yesterday, as I am the primary caregiver. I was able to have another family member care for her during the duration of this meeting. So I just wanted to make that clear that I was on medical leave, and that is why, but I was able to make it to this meeting.
The material that Andrew and Jericho are going to be speaking about is in the packet and online.
And I'll start off on it. This is a continuation of a testing-based approach, primarily focused on the pre-installation testing. The other two components follow along with proposals and recommendations from the Nantucket Land and Water Council regarding ongoing monitoring and independent testing of the track surface. Given the complexity of this issue and the difficulty with the kind of technical aspects of testing and analysis for this, we have split the particular discussions into separate sections so that we can make some progress going forward. The proposal for testing involves a variety of very specific testing mechanics, which were covered pretty extensively in the February meeting, discussing the nature and method of those tests. There are a variety of contingencies planned for different types of substances that are controlled. And there is a fair amount of work to be done on other sections of the agreement, but we're probably about 80% done with the pre-installation testing requirements. And then we were going to move on to ongoing monitoring and then onto the track. There are a lot of moving parts in this, and there are a lot of conflicting or complex scientific and basically analytic chemistry going on. So I'm going to rely on our expert for a better summary of this than I could provide at this time. Andrew, if you want to introduce kind of the general idea behind this and the specifics of testing, and then we can discuss slightly what remains to be done, which is a lot of sort of very inside baseball discussions about which particular materials and how much they must be tested. So I'll pass it over to you, Andrew, and then I'll break in if we're having issues hearing you.
Thank you, Mr. Mealy. I'm gonna yell. So I hope you all can hear me. So I wanted to update you all on what the school and the Nantucket Land and Water Council have agreed to so far. So the two parties are in agreement that the grass carpet, the infill, and the shock pad should all be tested for PFAS. And we understand that there's the potential for contaminants or potential contaminants to not be evenly distributed throughout those materials. And so the parties have agreed to test each of those materials for 8 samples. And each of those 8 samples is proposed to undergo 3 analyses for PFAS. So the first is EPA method 1633. The second is a total oxidizable precursor assay, a TOP assay, which oxidizes any precursor PFAS and ensures that they are transformed to PFAS that are analyzable under 1633. The last one is a synthetic precipitation leaching procedure, an SPLP, in which rainwater will be simulated to potentially stress the turf material and see if any PFAS essentially run off of the material. Now, one of the most important things is not only to identify what testing is required, it is also to identify what standards must be met. So both parties have agreed that the standards should be a combination of the Mass DEP standards and the EPA MCLs. So for the EPA 1633, the proposed comparison values are the Mass DEP soil standards for aquifers, essentially. Same thing for the total oxidizable precursor assay. And for the synthetic precipitation leaching procedure, the SPLP, both parties have agreed that the comparison value should be drinking water standards, both the Mass DEP and the EPA. In addition to that, the parties have agreed that any unregulated PFAS that are analyzed in 1633A, if they are detected, will be compared to EPA regional screening levels, which are toxicological values that exist for some unregulated PFAS. And if there are no values available in the EPA regional screening levels, a surrogate compound will be selected, and that surrogate will be one that has a toxicological comparison value. There's a decision tree in the packet that outlines this process. I do want to note where the parties do disagree. One is that the Land and Water Council has requested that the adhesive material be sampled for PFAS and that 2 samples should be analyzed for each of the 3 analytical methods. The Land and Water Council has also proposed an ongoing monitoring system, and the Land and Water Council has also proposed that the track be sampled. And I know both parties are online tonight, so I will let them speak to why they are pushing for, and in the case of the Land and Water Council, and why they are recommending against those additional samples for the part of the school's consulting team. That's all from me, Madam Chair. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andrew.
Madam Chair, I have a question for Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey, Andrew, it's Carrie.
Carrie.
Can you give numbers for what the Mass DEP levels are versus the EPA in the testing protocol?
Absolutely. For the SPLP, that one is the comparison values we are most familiar with, because we always talk about private wells, Carrie. So for the Mass DEP standard, that's 20 for the PFAS 6. For the EPA MCL, it's 4 parts per trillion for PFOA and PFOS. And so the samples would be required to meet both of those comparison values. Now, for the soil standards, which are proposed as the comparison values for the 1633 and the total oxidizable precursor assay, those concentrations, those comparison values are reported in parts per billion, which is 1,000 times a part per trillion, and they're Mass DEP standards for soil. And Mass DEP regulates each of the individual PFAS separately. And so those comparison values range from, let's see, 0.3 parts per billion to 2 parts per billion.
Okay, thank you.
Andrew, I have a question. What other chemicals will be tested for potential toxins beside the PFAS group?
The proposed sampling is limited to PFAS.
Say again?
The proposed sampling is limited to PFAS.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Is there a reason that we're not testing for lead, zinc, barium, nickel, chromium, antimony? Because I know those have been found in other artificial turfs that have been tested, and I was surprised when I saw this that it doesn't test for heavy metals or VOCs, and I'm unclear why we would not want to protect our community. I mean,
So this agreement is focused on the PFAS part of the testing because there's a variety of standards for it. So this was the most contentious portion of it. The school, I believe their earlier proposal did include testing for a variety of other substances.
I've not heard these requested before or mentioned before, and other than that they should be, is this not an opportunity for us to say that those things should be added to the testing regimen? I think it would be, I think that as the Board of Health, and our job here is to protect public health, to not test for those things would be a huge mistake in us not really doing our job.
So again, the complete suite of testing, I think, is still ongoing. We're focusing on the most contentious issue first, and then we're going to continue working. This represents an initial attempt to iron out a pre-installation testing protocol that would then come back to the board for comment and eventual ratification, if that's what the board desires. This particular proposal is not complete. It's just an indicator of the direction of discussion and the attempt to nail down the most difficult and complex parts of the pre-installation testing, which is what's sampled to what standard, what action levels, what do we do when there is not an identified compound with regulatory impact now, and then what do we do if there's no evidence or no established limits, which is what the decision tree and the surrogate substances are for.
So can I ask some other questions, Madam Chair? Or are we waiting for?
I believe that, are you finished with your presentation, Andrew, or there's more?
This was more of an update as to what we're attempting to do. There will be more work necessary for this to be completed. This is still only the first third of the pre-installation testing. And it's an indication of how we're moving forward, how we're attempting to address all of the concerns of the various advocates that we had earlier, and to ensure that there is satisfaction with the testing before installation, or as best as we can do in that.
So it is possible to add other toxins.
I think yes. I mean, I would imagine that there is going to be considerable back and forth on this discussion. We're letting the advocates for each side determine that. That's why we're working through Nantucket Land and Water Council, and that's why we're working with the school.
Okay.
Hey, go ahead. Go ahead, Gary.
Do you know what the second third is and the third is?
I believe next is the discussion of track, which I believe has something to do with the release of information from the manufacturer.
Okay.
And then finally, we're looking at testing and monitoring in a variety of different ways.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question about the 1633 is a wastewater test for non-potable water. The testing recommendations treat the stormwater filtering through the field as if it were wastewater and not as it would be treated as drinking water. And I'm concerned because I think that everybody here is concerned about the stormwater going into our aquifer. So why are we not looking at it as if it was drinking water and holding it to that standard? Because 1 part per billion versus 1 part per trillion, I think is very different. And I think anybody that has been affected by PFAS in their well or in their water would agree that that's a big difference. And we really should be treating this as how will the water that comes off of the field be, what will be coming out of it, and really being very thorough. And we're not the first town to go over this and discuss this. And I think the majority of towns are looking at it as drinking water.
I believe the standard
Madam Chair,
for
can I respond
stormwater
to that,
is-
please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Madam Chair, so for the synthetic leaching protocol, 1633A is recommended over a drinking water standard because this is not drinking water. The method detection limits will be low enough that we can compare to drinking water standards, but there are issues of, for example, particulates being available in the sampled stream. And if you have too many particulates, the drinking water methods are not appropriate. I think the main concern is that the detection limits be sufficiently low, and the detection limits for the synthetic leaching protocol will be low enough to compare to a drinking water standard. And now 1633A is also the appropriate standard for the solids testing. So that's the testing directly of the grass, the infill, and the backing. And those are not liquids. So the recommended EPA methodology for solids. So for example, when DEP was on site sampling at the fairgrounds site you're sitting at right now, they use 1633A. It's the appropriate method for solids like these.
I would just like to see the results in parts per trillion. I also think that it makes blanket comparisons with regulatory values for a complex material, soil, that has drastically different chemical properties to plastic. So PFAS is going to move through plastic differently than it is going to move through soil. Am I correct, Andrew? Soil is going to have organic material that the PFAS could attach to. So I just find that there's a lot of problems with what has been, and I understand this sounds like it is a draft. I wonder why this has been going on since September or October, that everyone decided to come up with this testing now. And with town meeting around the corner, I just think it's a problem when we're thinking about something that could possibly potentially pollute our aquifer. It is unknown because 2 tests have been done on the Brockville and the shock pad, but that is it. So
the proposal for this material is upwards of 8 samples from each material, which is randomly sampled to ensure a statistically significant representation of the testing results.
I guess my concern is I'm not unclear why the school hasn't decided to try and do this before now, like at the last minute. this
This
proposal came together.
This proposal follows along with testing testing plans that were included with the presentation a few months ago. It follows along with recommendations from the Land and Water Council. It is designed to be the most appropriate and effective testing mechanism, and it is not finished yet.
Now, that's what I wanted to say. I think we all need to keep in mind that this is a work in progress, that these guys are working valiantly to try to put something together that makes this stuff safe for everybody. And they have made very clear to us and in their statement and everything that they have some more work to do. But they're making progress. And my sense is, am I right, Andrew? I mean, Jericho, that it's, if you didn't have to present tonight, you would have wanted a little more time to pull it together. But because of the timing of this meeting, you had to show us where you were at this point.
Yes. As mentioned, this is an extremely complicated and rapidly evolving area of science. This is specific testing on the material that will be delivered. It is a evolving science that is being worked out between advocates for different interests. The intent is to make this as accurate as is scientifically responsible and as appropriate to the specifics of this field and this proposal as possible. It is I believe it's a higher standard of testing than any other construction project when it comes to this material. It is my job to figure out how to address issues as best I can. And this is the approach that was basically proposed a while ago, and in a variety of different ways. And we're trying to bring all of the different interests together in the same room with the qualified experts who are up on the evolving science of this discussion in order to make sure that we get the best testing regime that is appropriate to this particular project.
Madam Chair? A
Yeah,
question again, in past discussions, there's these chemical stuff. We've also talked about microplastics and nanoplastics. Are they somewhere in the parts 2 and 3, or how does that, where do they work in?
There are no specific guidelines around micro and nanoplastics. There is an extensive catchment system that is being developed in association with this that will address microplastic capture. As far as I know about nanoplastics, there is not enough established science to determine their health impacts. But it is an attempt to use the regulatory tools that we have and that exist to minimize the potential for risk associated with this field.
I feel like during our scientific discussion, and I'm allowed to talk about that, correct?
Yeah.
So I believe that one of the experts made the comment that the type of catch basins that they are using, the mesh is not fine enough to catch the micro nanoplastics. And I also wonder, under the Safe Drinking Water Act, there is something called the candidate contaminant list, and the EPA will put chemicals on there on the list to study and identify the limits for safety. And microplastics were actually just added to that list, I think this month. So I do think we need to look at that, because we are not here to say, oops, we put this in and we didn't do all the testing. I think if this is the way that the community moves, then I think that we really need to make sure that we're doing a robust and comprehensive evaluation, and not saying, oh, well, we don't know about nanoplastics. We do know that the filter that they said they were going to use would not capture those. I mean, it was pretty clear. So I don't know if there's something better. I that's not my expertise.
Normally,
Madam Chair, I can respond to that.
Go ahead.
Andrew?
Madam Chair, EPA
Yes.
did add microplastics to CCL6, which is the candidate contaminant list. And that essentially authorizes EPA to develop methods to sample microplastics in water and to develop health and safety standards for microplastics. But those standards do not exist. So if there were a test for microplastics, I would not be able to interpret it for you. I would not be able to tell you what the implications are for health.
Does anyone on the board have questions for this, for our presenters before we go on? Okay. I think 15C is stated Vice Chair proposal and motion, artificial turf and track system testing and moratorium. Before you do that, Meredith, I believe town council would like to address this, but John Giorgio, are you here?
I am, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. So we had been asked to advise the Board of Health on what kind of procedures would be required in order to consider enacting a health regulation that contained a moratorium. I would like to go through those procedures for you tonight. First of all, the only way that the Board of Health can really impose a moratorium would be by a health regulation that is authorized under General Laws Chapter 111, Section 31. But it's important to note, and this is really critical, I want everyone to understand this, under the town code, the Board of Health or any board cannot enact a regulation without following the advertising and notification procedures and holding a public hearing. And that notice for the public hearing is a minimum of 21 days. So the first question is, if the Board of Health is interested in considering a moratorium, I would recommend the following procedures. First, I believe your agenda is broad enough this evening where the board could vote to proceed with the development of a draft of a moratorium and direct town staff with the assistance of town council to draft something up, a proposed regulation, which we would then present to the Board of Health at a future meeting. And you would have the opportunity to make comment, ask questions, and then we would, and then the question would be, does the Board of Health wish to actually proceed with the public hearing? And if the answer to that question were yes, you would vote to schedule the public hearing. You would give the proper notification. And again, it would be a minimum of 21 days from the publication of the notice of the hearing in the local newspaper. I might add that this procedure is essentially the same procedure that the Select Board routinely follows when it is considering enacting regulations. So that would be the process that the Board of Health could follow if you're interested in pursuing a moratorium. Are there any questions from the board members about that process?
Yes, I have a question. I believe under section 122 of chapter 111, it gives boards the power to abate nuisances that may affect health, contamination, and unsafe conditions. And I would love to hear your thought on that, because I went to a training about all of this. And obviously I'm not an attorney, but it sounded like when there was a threat to public health, and I'm not comparing this to COVID, but I believe during COVID, we did not have a 3-week public health announcement or a 3-week announcement. I wasn't on the board at that time. that the board is allowed to have essentially, I think they called it a police power, but it have the power to do an emergency for a certain amount of time in order to evaluate something if it is considered a threat to public health.
Madam Chair, through you to the previous speaker, there are essentially two statutes at play here. One is the one that I mentioned, which is 111, Section 31, which authorizes the adoption of regulations, health and safety regulations by the board. In my opinion, that's what the board would be doing here, because I can't imagine that you would, and certainly I wouldn't recommend that you would adopt a regulation that was just applicable to one particular recreational facility in town. And we all know there are others. So it really needs to be adopted as a regulation. Chapter 111, Section 122, the speaker is correct. That gives the Board of Health the authority to basically, I believe the statute says, to investigate sources of filth and nuisances and to issue enforcement orders to abate the same. I don't think that's the appropriate method here, because again, you're looking at a town-wide issue, which is the impact of turf fields with respect to PFAS contamination. So my recommendation would be that you follow the procedures that I have outlined if the board wants to consider the imposition of a moratorium. It's what other towns have done, not so much with PFAS, but other moratorium that they've intended to enact, and it's done by a Board of Health regulation. So if there are no other questions about that, I just wanted to talk briefly about, so what is the extent of the Board of Health's authority? What's the legal standard that the Board of Health would have to meet in order to enact a defensible regulation? Obviously, we've talked about the procedural requirements, and those are absolutely mandated and will have to be followed. But the legal standard under Section 31 of Chapter 111 is that the Board of Health has authority to make reasonable health regulations. And as you can probably imagine, there's a lot of case law in Massachusetts dealing with, well, what is a reasonable health regulation? Who can it apply to? And any number of other issues that but I'd like to emphasize that the following considerations in order to meet the legal standards for a health regulation needs to be considered by the board, and findings need to be made. And that would all be part of the regulations. The first is the regulation rationally related to a stated public health purpose? And is it supported by scientific studies? Okay, I'm not going to comment one way or the other because in my mind, I certainly don't have any information about what this regulation would look like to be able to answer these questions, but that is a question that would have to be answered as part of the due diligence the board would have to follow. Secondly, is the regulation preempted by or otherwise inconsistent with state, federal, or local law, regulations, and or standards for the concentration of PFAS? You know, there's a principle in municipal law, it's called preemption, and local boards, including boards of health, are precluded from making regulations that are inconsistent with federal and state regulations unless the board can demonstrate a particular local need. And also, if the activity is comprehensively regulated at the federal or state level, then the doctrine of preemption says that there's a there's a presumption that to preclude local regulation. So we'll have to look at that preemption issue. Is there an express or implied legislative grant of authority for a Board of Health to impose stricter standards? And I would compare and contrast by saying in the tobacco field, there is explicit authority in the general laws that allow boards of health to enact more stringent regulations involving tobacco. And certainly I believe your Board of Health and others have taken advantage of that and enacted local regulations relating to tobacco use. The fourth one is really tricky, and listening to everyone's presentation, I think it's the one that's going to be the most difficult to wade through, and that is, does the regulation impose a requirement that is not scientifically attainable, measurable, or enforceable? In my opinion, you can't just enact a moratorium and says no artificial turf unless it tests unless PFAS tests for zero. I don't know what that means. We struggled with that question when we put together the warrant article and the motion. There's got to be more definition in order to ensure that the regulation is not going to be void for vagueness, and it's going to have to be reasonable, which means scientifically, in my opinion, attainable, measurable, or enforcement. We also have to look at whether the regulation constitutes, in effect, a complete ban on the use or installation of a turf field. In other words, is the intent of the moratorium simply to have a backdoor way of completely banning turf in the town? And I'm not saying that's the motivation here at all. And I'm not making any conclusion. Please, I'm
Not
not
appropriate.
Hey,
That,
no.
Mr. Giorgio, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So my intent in this was, and I can go through my presentation, was never to stop the use of the Noberdier farm field as of today or tomorrow. That was not the intent. The intent was going forward, the installation. So I am happy to take the word use out to say installation, because really my concern is that we've been talking since October about testing, and every other town that I have watched, and I have watched a lot of meetings and read a lot of articles and learned a lot of chemistry through this, is they all had testing to review. We even had that in 2022 where we talked about that we were able to review the testing that the vineyard had done. And now we're saying we're going to buy it. We're going to commit to it, and then we're going to test it, rather than saying, let's test it and see what it is. I even would be open to compromising and taking out the zero and saying, let's just see what's in it. And then we can see if if those are chemicals that we feel as a board we can live with. The precautionary principle in public health is the idea that you don't wait for complete scientific or certainty before taking action to prevent harm, especially when the potential risks are serious or irreversible. If there's a credible evidence of a health risk, even if it's not fully proven, public health authorities may act early to reduce exposure or prevent damage. I mean, I think we have seen this. We were told that cigarettes were safe. I think they encouraged mothers to smoke. And now obviously we know, and there was a big movement to ban smoking in places and to tell people not to smoke. Leaded gas was told that we was fine, and everyone thought it was great and they did not show that it was
I think
harming
this is
people.
part of your presentation. Why don't
Okay.
you let
Yes, Madam Chair,
Giorgio finish his?
I was, I was interrupted and I just wanted to finish. I have one more bullet point that I wanted the board to be aware of. And that is the question whether a regulation by the Board of Health as applied would unreasonably interfere with an essential governmental function or an action reasonably related to that function. And I'm not making a conclusion, believe me, but I think we have to look at the fact that this is a project being proposed by the school department, which I think does have an important function in providing recreational facilities for the students and other users of the field. So we're going to have to look at that question. So as far as tonight is concerned, I don't think the board really has any authority other than to take a vote, if there is such a motion, to continue to examine the question of whether a moratorium should be considered, and then to direct, if that is yes, to direct town staff in consultation with town council to try to draft language for the actual regulation. That's the most I think you can do tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let's go ahead and have the vice chair discuss her I'm going to call it a proposal, not a motion.
So my purpose in this was to start looking at what are the risks to our community, because I know that there are many people that feel like PFAS is in everything and they don't care and they just want what they want, and that is fine, that is valid. But we are a community and we can do things in our own home. We can have plastic in our own home, and that can be our choice. However, that's not everyone's choice. So I think we really need to be considerate and really thoroughly look through this and say, because what we know now is nothing. We know that there's PFBA in it, I think 4,100 parts per trillion, which is not a regulated PFAS, but doesn't mean it's safe. There's dozens of studies on human, metabolic, digestive, reproductive, immune, cancer, and development studies showing concerns with PFAS, especially with PFBA, induces hepatocellular carcinoma, liver cancer, which is surprising to me. Well, not that surprising because we've had quite a bit of liver cancer on Nantucket. So it's surprising to me that we know that it's in there. Sorry, that's my timer. And we know that that's a threat to human health. That's just one example. And we really have not done a thorough examination of the microplastics, the nanoplastics, and the heavy metals, the VOCs, and the PFAS. And I think that we really need to, because the fields will leach out 4 pounds to over 200 pounds of microplastics a year. We know that the Brock infill has PFAS in it. We also know that Dr. Graham Peasley at Notre Dame did a study. He tested 7 different types of artificial turf and found that they were leaching 317 parts per trillion. And so over the course of the life of that artificial turf, it would contaminate 180 million gallons of water. We know that there are many communities in and around Massachusetts and the country that are trying to mitigate these. I think I heard New Jersey, they just spent $111 million on filters, or $100 million on a filter, and it still is not removing all of the PFAS. And I just don't think that as the Board of Health, I think it is our job to protect public health. And in doing that, we need to see a catch basins. We need to see that they will actually keep out the nanoplastics and the microplastics. We need to see what chemicals are we exposing our children to that maybe today or tomorrow aren't going to hurt them, but maybe 10 or 15 years from now, we're going to find out that they have cancer because they were exposed to something in the turf that we didn't look thoroughly at. And I am asking, as a parent and as a community member and as a Board of Health member, that we take a minute and really look what is in this, because we haven't looked at that. We just haven't. I know there were a lot of pages in the school committee packets that looked like a lot of testing. It was not. It was 2 tests on 2 pieces of the turf, and that is it. Martha's Vineyard had almost 50 tests. They tested every single part of the turf, including the adhesive, and then they tested the leachate from it. And we just haven't done that. And we really do, as a community and as a board, need to do our due diligence and test and see what it is. I am not saying I hate turf. I'm not saying that. I've never said that. I know that I've been quoted. People are saying that I said that. I've never said I hate that. What I have said is I worry about our groundwater, and I worry about what I have read in all of the articles that show it leaching things. So I would love for us to really explore and do a real thorough analysis. I think that the proposal from the school and the Land and Water Council needs quite a bit of work. I would be happy to work on that. I definitely think it just we really need to take care of our community members. For many of these are our children playing on these fields, and we need to make sure that it's safe. And I just feel like we don't know that yet. And if we don't know that, how can we say to the voters at town meeting, let's vote on this, but we don't know what it's going to do to our water. We don't know what it's going to do to our community members. I feel like that's a problem, and we need to take care of that. We need to take a minute and look at the science and look at what these tests and do a really thorough examination of it.
Meredith, what would your proposal be?
I mean, I would like to propose an emergency moratorium just until the testing is done so that we can look at it and say, are these chemicals coming off? Are these things that we are worried about? Are these things safe? Let's see. Like, I don't think there are a lot of towns that have done bans. I did not say, let's do a ban. I said, let's take a minute. I don't want to stop work on, I'm not stopping people from playing on the Nobody or Farm fields. I think let's take a pause and look at the science. I think people are getting heated on both sides. Let's do the test and see, one side says those things aren't there. Another side says they are there. It's kind of like being a little pregnant. It's there or it's not. So let's see if it's there and if they're at levels that we can live with.
Okay.
Madam Chair, Andrew has his hand up.
Andrew. Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, a minor point, but PFBA, the compound referenced by Ms. Lepre, is one of the compounds that will be tested, and it also has an EPA screening level, so it will also be compared for potential health effects.
Thanks, Andrew. Okay, I think this is a place where we have somebody else.
Yeah, do you want to open to public?
We were going to begin.
If we're going to do public comment, it would be first. We said that the first discussion was going to be between Land and Water Council.
I think we're ready to get to the public comment unless you think this person is. Well, they're part of public comment. Yeah. Okay, I think we can open this to public comment. As I told you earlier, we will have 30 minutes. It will be, each speaker will be held to 3 minutes or less. And the Land and Water Council and the Nantucket Public Schools will go first. And then everyone else is welcome to comment.
Okay, I had a hand up from Erica Mooney.
As a public comment?
Yes,
Yeah, Erica might have a point of order.
Sorry, I don't have a point of order. I have a public comment. So if you want to do school and the land council.
Yeah, that's what we said, and then we'll certainly take you, Erica.
Sure, thank you.
Very briefly, I'll be timekeeping, so I'll give you one of these at around 10 seconds.
I'll be quickly. I'm Chip Clooney, Director of Facilities, Public Schools. I'm reading a statement from the superintendent. The Nantucket Public Schools, in partnership with SMRT, Weston and Sampson, and TRC companies, would like to thank the Nantucket Land and Water Council and Horsley Witten for the opportunity to collaborate and to develop a turf pre-installation testing protocol. As reflected in the draft document, proposed NPS Land and Water Council turf sampling document, all parties have engaged in a good faith effort to craft language that is clear, practical, and mutually acceptable. This work is intended to provide the Board of Health and the broader Nantucket community with a defined and transparent process for testing turf components prior to their arrival on Nantucket. Nantucket Public Schools remains firmly committed to ensuring that all materials used for the Vito Capizzo Stadium synthetic playing field meet applicable safety standards and fall below all established EPA and Mass DEP safety limits for PFAS. We also hope this process demonstrates the value of open and transparent collaboration when we work together with a shared focus on what we can do for our students, our school, and community. We can make meaningful progress. We look forward to continuing the collaboration in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Willa Arsenal. I'm here today speaking on behalf of the Nantucket Land and Water Council. First, thank you to the Board of Health for continuing this discussion and for the opportunity to speak again today. We would like to recognize once again that our community has many important needs, including investing in our students and athletic facilities. At the same time, we also have a responsibility to be mindful of how projects of this scale impact the long-term health of our drinking water resources. We appreciate the effort by the Nantucket Public Schools and their team to further develop a testing protocol for the proposed artificial turf field and for their willingness to collaborate with us and consider our input. We have continued to work with the Horsley Witten Group to review the available information and to identify an approach that meets the minimum standards necessary to meaningfully reduce known risk from the artificial turf and synthetic track alternatives before you. Based on what has been provided to date, and the timeline before us, important information gaps remain between what is being proposed and what we believe is needed to minimize risk. While we appreciate the direction of the proposed testing protocol and the inclusion of some of our requested standards, it still lacks critical elements to make it effective. In particular, all components of the artificial turf field must be subject to testing. The track should be explicitly included in the same testing requirements and standards, including testing of the individual components, and a baseline and ongoing monitoring program must be included for the duration of the project. Based on the language of the warrant article and ballot question, it is our understanding that any requirements adopted by the Board of Health can be incorporated into the bid specifications and associated project costs as additional local requirements. These conditions need to be built directly into the project if it is to move forward, and we are asking the Board of Health to make them requirements. Even if the board adopts all of the conditions we've outlined, those measures should be understood as a minimum baseline, not a comprehensive safeguard. They reduce risk, but they do not eliminate it. They do not substitute for a full evaluation of alternatives. At this time, preliminary testing has not yet been completed on all materials, and results will not be available prior to our annual town meeting. Critically, there has been no clear or comparable cost-benefit evaluation provided of the originally proposed natural grass alternative, leaving us without the information needed to determine whether a less risky and feasible option is available. Based on these reasons and our mission, the NLWC is not in a position to support the field and track components, but we are hoping to continue working with all parties to ensure that we have collectively minimized risk as much as possible should the community vote to approve Article 12. As has been discussed, micro and nanoplastics remain a concern, and there are no available standards for us to hold them to. We continue to recommend stormwater infrastructure that can help us to fully capture as much as possible, recognizing that there is no available technology that can fully address the risks. Given that, we strongly urge the board to, at a minimum, incorporate our requested requirements into any motion and vote that you make this evening. If we had more time to evaluate testing results from all materials, as well as the impacts and feasibility of alternatives, we would be in a better position to make a recommendation and the community could make a more informed decision. Nantucket has a long history of taking proactive steps to protect its drinking water. This is an opportunity to continue that approach, to ensure that decisions are made carefully, transparently, and with a full understanding of potential risks and alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, before the public starts speaking, I just want to make one general comment. If I may, I just want to acknowledge everyone who showed up today. Everyone has busy schedules, lots of things to do, and especially the students who had a long day at school and practices and all that. I think it means a lot to all of us. I wish our select board meetings were this well attended, but really appreciate no matter what side of the issue any of us are on. So thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I just want to refresh everyone's memory on how public comment is intended to go. There will be a total of 30 minutes for all presenters, 3 minutes per person. I will do a little wave thing when you have 10 seconds left. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I think I had Erica's hand raised first.
Oh, you did. Yes. Okay. Erica.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair, for recognizing me. Just two very quick comments. One, I believe the moratorium that's being proposed is 3 years. Is that correct? I don't know if anybody.
It was up to 3 years or done so that it could
Okay.
paid it
I
that
just,
going to take
I
3
wouldn't
years.
consider that a pause. Just to use your word, I wouldn't consider that a pause. And I also am curious, what about all the private sports courts that have been built all around the island? You see private basketball courts, pickleball courts, all different kinds of sports courts that are being approved by the HTC and installed everywhere. Are those under the jurisdiction of the health department? Are you going to start getting involved in that as well? Thank you.
I
We were going to go with the one in, one online, one in, one online. Okay. Let's go ahead.
Jericho, is your mic on? Because I can't hear you.
No, of course not. We're going to do alternate, one online, one in person. I would get in line now if you want to. This is a good time for to do it. And then I'll just go one, boom, 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 boom. Okay. And please, I really don't want to have to yell for people when their time's up. So please.
Okay. Charity bands, with no real association or attachment to this issue, other than the fact that in my career, I was a workers' compensation commissioner and had to deal with issues having to do with asbestos, which was never considered to be harmful when it was first used. And of course, smoking, which is legendarily a problem that nobody seemed to take seriously. I have 3 questions because I am not a parent in this location. I would like to know whether parents sign a waiver of liability to protect the town against possible future lawsuits. Now, this is based upon experience with things like asbestos and that sort of thing. I would also like to know if the town, and if I guess John is still here, whether the town's insurance policy protects the town and the taxpayers against future unknown liability. And then if a child is injured while playing, who pays for the insurance? Who pays the medical care? Is that paid under the parents' health insurance what happens to people, how is that addressed? And those are essentially my three questions, but I think in spite of the fact that people are impatient, they want to do this and they want to get all of this going. And I have had the misfortune of having to adjudicate cases and hearings where people have thought asbestos was great and the widows were there filing claims. So I hope you will take this seriously and a little more time to get testing that protects, makes everybody sure that they're doing the right thing might not be a bad thing.
Thank you.
Do you want to direct? Yeah. Next person online.
Yeah.
Okay. Stephen.
Thank you very much for allowing me some time here to discuss the proposed motions that are coming forward and some of our work that we've performed and done with the Land and Water Council. I'm going to keep my comments primarily for the proposed motion that was put forth. As has been explained earlier, there's a lot of back and forth going on with the Land and Water Council right now, and I think we're moving forward very well with what they are asking for of us. Predominantly, my concerns with the proposed motion is that what is being proposed is extraordinarily vague with regard to what acceptable criteria will be for essentially all of the tests that are being requested. There is not a definition in the proposal of what concentrations of any compound that's identified will be that are acceptable. But most unattainable in this motion is the requirement of 0 for PFAS and microplastics and nanoplastics. That measuring 0 is a scientific impossibility. It cannot be done. And it really would come down to trying to find a single molecule in the entire project's expanse of material. That just is not something that can be done from a testing standpoint. What has been proposed is to compare these materials to the most stringent criteria with regard to soils and water. And I believe that is appropriate and is acceptable. The other issues that I really have with this motion is that much of the testing for many of the compounds, for metals, for VOCs and SVOCs, all those things, there's no here of what methods will be acceptable, what concentrations would be acceptable, the frequency of sampling. There really is just no way for the school to, or anyone, to be able to meet what has been laid out here.
10-second warning.
And basically what has been provided for an achievable alternative is actually not achievable and is impossible from a scientific standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. LaRosa, will you please state your name and any affiliation for the record? We didn't catch it.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm Stephen LaRosa. I'm Senior Technical Leader at Weston and Sampson Engineers here on behalf of the public schools.
Thank you.
All right, I think it's the person on this side.
My name is Leah Mosier. I am not affiliated with anybody or any business other than my own. There's one word for what is being proposed here, and that's addition. We've already added PFAS to our soil and our water. We've added plastic to our beaches, our waterways, and our fish. We've added chemicals to the bodies of our children, now measurable in 98% of people's blood. The question before this board is whether we will add another 36 tons of petroleum-based plastic directly above the single aquifer that every person on this island drinks from and call it progress. The argument I've heard by parents that children are already playing on contaminated ground and that synthetic turf therefore represents an improvement misunderstands how contamination works. You do not solve a problem of accumulation by accumulating more. The 2,000 pounds of hazardous waste recovered from Nantucket's environment in just one of our recent litter cleanups further leads me personally to believe that we already have unaddressed contamination, and now we are being asked to fund a new source of potential contamination on top of it. Off island, there are more than 12,000 fields like this one, already blanketing once living soil in this country. And when a field dies, as they do die on average in 8 to 10 years, there's nowhere for it to go. It's buried or burned and left to degrade our shared infinite resources in perpetuity. Every parent in this room wants the best for their child's health and well-being. No one is questioning that. The petrochemical industry has consistently shown that their concern is not with our health, it is only with their bottom line. This is the same industry that has spent decades insisting plastics and the PFAS they leach are safe, has now convinced well-meaning parents that natural grass is somehow inadequate. This is a remarkable achievement in persuasion. And the public health failure whose consequences we cannot measure. Every field like this is a vote for more unquantified chemical exposure, health impacts, more questions that regulators have not answered, and the industry has no incentive to ask. We share one water source. What we place above it, we place in it. The science on synthetic turf is not settled. The data gaps are not minor, they are stark. When the unknowns are this consequential, pausing to ask whether something is safe is not failure or obstructionism. It is an act of integrity and common sense. Thank you for your time and for taking this seriously. This is what this community deserves and what this board has both the authority and the obligation to require. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I have Elizabeth online. This person,
Hello, Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, you're on.
Okay. Should we move on?
Oh, we can't hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
can you tell us your name and your affiliation, how you're involved?
Sure. My name is Elizabeth Denley. I work for TRC Environmental as a chemistry director, and I'm working as a consultant for the Nantucket School Department. So I just wanted to make a couple of comments.
Did we accept that?
Is that
Well,
okay?
Yeah.
no parameters, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, sorry.
So I do want to stress something that we heard before, that this proposed motion is very vague, very constraining, and in some instances, meeting the motion requirements is going to be scientifically impossible. And we don't really feel like it's a very fair request of the school department. A couple of things, we're requesting the analysis of metals and semi-volatile organic compounds. Besides not, letting us know which ones you're requesting analysis of, we're not sure the rationale for this request because we're not using crumb rubber infill. And that's really where we've, the studies have shown that metals and semi-volatile organic compounds have come from, and we've already committed to not using that. Also, the motion requests the analysis of total organic fluorine and micro and nanoplastics testing. Right now, there's no regulatory or risk-based screening criteria for total organic fluorine or micro and nanoplastics. So it doesn't seem like these methods are going to give us any useful information for making an informed and science-based decision. And it's really unclear how the Board of Health is going to have the knowledge to determine what an acceptable number would be with no criteria out there in the scientific community. Also, as far as testing the track material, we don't understand the rationale for that and really would like to see some kind of published reference for why this is being requested. We understand for the turf material, there was studies back in the day that did show PFAS, but we are now seeing, I've worked in many different communities and we're able to demonstrate that these turf materials do not add any increased risk to human health or the environment. And finally, the most significantly unattainable requirement of this motion is that the motion states that, in order for the moratorium to be lifted, there has to be zero PFAS, zero microplastics, nanoplastics. Again, I'm a chemist. I will tell you it's scientifically impossible to measure zero concentration of any material. Every method has a limit of detection. There's no method that can go to zero. So, and it's also unclear why the Board of Health is, asking for criteria that are stricter than soil and drinking water. We don't go to zero for those environmental media. So we shouldn't have a stricter requirement for turf materials. And the other thing is, we do not agree that there's any real scientific basis for post-monitoring. If we're able to demonstrate that this material is acceptable prior to use using these, very acceptable, conservative, aggressive techniques. And I think, we heard town council earlier saying that the regulation has to be related to a stated public health purpose, and it has to be supported by scientific studies. And some of these requests in the motion are not supported by scientific studies. Thank you.
Thank you. Over here on this side.
Hi, thank you. Lisa Weisentanner. I am a parent to 4 kids, 2 former student athletes, 2 current student athletes, business owner, and formerly the cross country and track and field coach for both CPS and NHS. Good evening, and members of the board. The contamination of PFAS on Nantucket is not isolated to one turf field. It exists across a wide range of sources throughout our community. This is an island-wide issue. It's real and it matters, but the way we address it equally matters as much. I'd like you to imagine a crystal clear swimming pool. Now imagine people approaching that pool from every direction, introducing black dye into the water. One person is using an eyedropper, dropping little drops at a time. Another person is pouring a cup. Somebody else is dumping a full bucket in. Somebody else has a hose they're spraying across the surface of the water. However the dye enters and wherever it enters, it doesn't stay in one place. It spreads and it travels, and that crystal clear water becomes contaminated throughout. That is how unregulated PFAS behaves on this island. Any motion to make a moratorium or a ban of turf is the equivalent of banning the eyedropper from putting ink into the pool while ignoring the cup, the bucket, and the hose. You can't ban a source which tests at non-detect levels while ignoring the unregulated sources and think that a meaningful impact will be the outcome. The school and the engineers have agreed to rigorous testing and safeguards, and yet the standards continue to shift. Requirements become more stringent, sometimes beyond what's actually possible. Motions have been made that would allow the approval of the turf, but with conditions that are defined much later. Let's be honest, that's nothing more than a backdoor to making this project impossible. I would argue that this project should be used as an example of what it looks like to take the environmental impact seriously. If the same level of scrutiny were applied across all materials on this island that contained PFAS, it's fair to question whether we would see the same level of cooperation that this project has shown. Madam Chair and members of the board, I urge you to allow this project to go to town meeting. Let the voice of the community be heard. A pause from this board until the community has spoken is not a retreat. It's reasonable governments. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I have Mark. Mark, you're up.
Mark?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right,
Can you
thank
please
you.
identify yourself and any affiliations you may have?
Yes, this is Mark Haft. I am the Vice President of Engineering and Quality at Tenkate.
Excuse me. Yes.
Oh,
All
can
right,
you hear
go
me?
ahead, Mark.
All right. Well, I'm a chemical engineer, and I want to address the concerns that synthetic turf is a meaningful source of PFAS exposure. Our products have been rigorously tested using established analytical methods, including the EPA method 537 for wastewater, the EPA method 1633, as Andrew discussed earlier, and for targeted PFAS analysis, as well as EN 14582, which is for all tall halogens. Across all these methods, results are non-detect, confirming that our system contains no measurable PFAS or fluorinated compounds. Importantly, this outcome is not accidental. As a company, we have invested millions of dollars to proactively remove PFAS from all of our products and processes. We've maintained PFAS free as of October 1st, 2023. We also maintain ISO 14001 certification for environmental management and have achieved UL certification across all of our manufacturing facilities for zero waste to landfill. That means that none of our factories send any waste to landfill. So these aren't just claims, they're audited, third-party verified commitments that reflect our broader responsibility to environmental stewardship. It's also important to place PFAS exposure in the proper scientific context. A peer review study published by the Journal of Agriculture and Food Chemistry shows that grasses uptake PFAS, including PFOS and PFOA, directly from contaminated soils with measurable transfer from soil into plant tissue. This highlights that natural grass systems are not inherently free of PFAS and can act as part of exposure pathways to environmental contamination is present, and we ask for the same standard to apply to natural grass fields as you're applying to the artificial turf fields. From an engineering and analytical standpoint, decisions should be based on complete data and full body of evidence, focusing narrowly on synthetic turf, particularly products that have been already tested and shown to be PFAS free, does not reflect how PFAS actually behaves in the environment or how exposure occurs. We fully support informed science-based decision-making and are committed to transparency, safety, and providing materials that meet the highest standards. We also welcome, specific bans on PFAS and limits, and request that you ban those particular materials, not synthetic turf in general. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's the person on this side. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Dan Weber. I live at 25B Park Circle. I'm a math teacher at Cyrus Pierce Middle School, and I coach the varsity field hockey and JV baseball teams at Nantucket High School. Normally, I wouldn't be able to be here today, but I didn't have practice because there's only 2 baseball fields, and CPS was using one for a game. And varsity had to use one for practice, so I was without a field. I'm here to speak not just as a teacher and a coach, but as a concerned voter, homeowner, taxpayer on Nantucket. I'm chiefly concerned about the actions of this board and its members regarding the Vito Capizzo Stadium project. Having watched this process closely for the last 5 months, I feel that you are acting outside of your jurisdiction. How are you able to obstruct the actions and motions of another board? What message does that send to our voters? In school, we teach kids that if they want to change something, to get out and vote. Apparently, that doesn't apply if the Board of Health is scared. You might vote for something that they don't like. You're robbing citizens of the right to decide for themselves and the right to vote on this project. The proposed moratorium and the testing requirements are a calculated and strategic effort to prevent Article 12 from having a shot at town meeting, where it should be talked about and decided. Furthermore, the proposal has been agended. This proposal that we're talking about has been agended for just 18 days before town meeting. Based on the track record of the board, I can't help but feel the timeliness of this proposal is intentional. If the board was concerned about a real discussion on this, we would have had this proposal put forth a month ago, or 2 months ago, or 3 months ago. But discussion is not what the board wants, because that might allow for disagreement. The actions of the board have been executed in a manner to purposely obfuscate and prevent the public from being informed of their intentions, so that they and they alone can control the outcome of what happens here. I'm not asking people to support turf or grass. I am asking the Board of Health to uphold and support due process. Let people talk and decide at town meeting about what they would like to do here, because that's what all of us deserve as American citizens, and it's what we're all entitled to. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Gary?
Hi, good evening. Gary Hedman with the Horza Witten Group. Over the last couple of months, we've been working with the Nantucket Land and Water Council to, I think, advance the discussion, and we continue to be advocates for utilizing the best available analytical methods to analyze the proposed materials for the turf and track project. And I'll keep my comments brief, but I want to address 2 specific things. The synthetic track that is being proposed, I believe Liz questioned earlier, what the justification for testing that would be. And I would counter with, what is the justification for not testing it? It's a significant surface area that's going to discharge the stormwater directly to the subsurface. So we will continue to advocate and recommend that the synthetic track is also subject to the same testing requirements as the actual turf fields. I also want to just address our recommendation for monitoring. We believe that a project of this scope, and given the sensitive location within the town's wellhead protection area, is commensurate with a monitoring program to establish existing groundwater quality, and then to actually monitor stormwater runoff or filtrate as it's discharged from the field. Again, everything that is going to be discharged from this field via stormwater or snow melt will be directly infiltrated into the ground surface. So with that, if there are any questions on any of our recommendations, I remain available, and I would yield the rest of my time to the board if they do have any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Andrew, did you want to say how we're going to proceed?
So at the moment, we have time for 4 more speakers. With your permission, Madam Chair, I'd like to do the ones in the room, if that's okay. If anyone has any questions online that they would like to ask or comments, please, I'm going to regret this, send them to my email address. You can find it on the Health and Human Services webpage.
You had said you were going to give 30 minutes for public comment. It seems like 4 of the speakers were either with Land and Water Council or consultants for the school. So could you add those 12 minutes back to the public to speak?
That's why we're moving to in
Okay.
here.
Okay, great. Thank you.
4 more.
Are you adding 4 to the 30 minutes?
I wasn't planning on it. No.
So what I'm saying is, of the 30 minutes that you allowed, it seems 4 of the speakers that spoke were consultants for the school or the project or Land and Water
yes.
Council. And so you were going to give the school an opportunity to speak, then start the public comment. So can we add back in time for public comment that?
Do you want to add 12 minutes?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Guys. Okay. Yes. We'll add another 12 minutes.
Hi, my name is Jamie Lower. I'm a parent of 2 former Nantucket High School students, and I've coached girls lacrosse in our community for the past 13 years. My daughter Bailey now plays Division I collegiate lacrosse. We've heard extensive discussion about the turf field and the track project. Today, I want to highlight the extraordinary nature of our student athletes and why this project matters so deeply. From age 8 through high school, they represent some of the most dedicated, passionate, and driven young people in this country. These athletes routinely spend 7 hours traveling to just play a 1-hour game, doing homework en route, meeting teachers outside school hours, and pushing through immense obstacles. If they aspire to play at the next level, and there are many that do, summers mean cross-country tournaments, while school nights involve hotel stays off island to catch the early boat back for class. Their drive surpasses that of most adults and will open doors for their futures, both on and off the field. The urgent field problem. Everyone agrees this is a usage issue. Even with an exceptional grounds crew, maintaining a safe, stable grass field under such intense demand is impossible. Our field's current condition is inadequate and dangerous, with the potential to end these athletic careers and shatter their dreams. I know this firsthand. It nearly ended my daughter's. As detailed in my letter, hers, and others, injuries are a real threat on that field, and they demand serious action. A call for approval. Our student athletes' dedication, passion, and perseverance deserve admiration and a proper home field, safe, reliable, and worthy of their pride. I urge you to approve the turf field as planned without changes to the existing design, and by doing so, you empower these students to chase their dreams. Thank you.
Thank you. This side, please.
Yes, my name's Scott Capizzo. My dad is Vito Capizzo, and he would have wanted this for sure. He would wanted me to speak up tonight and speak up on behalf of Nantucket and these kids here that came down. Everyone that's very passionate and emotional subject, and I understand both sides of the argument, but I don't think it's worth risking the future of these kids and the legacy of my father and the hard work and the ethic and the virtue and values that he taught on Nantucket and sacrificed his life for. Your father kept him alive, and now you're trying to kill this thing. It doesn't make any sense. And you can, if you
Don't make personal attacks.
it's not a personal attack. And I think, if you'll pardon the pun, this is a Hail Mary at best. So, they named the stadium after him. I'm here to ask you, the Board of Health, not to sabotage this project. This is a game changer for our community. The school committee has already tested it and confirmed it's safe. So what are we doing here? We haven't seen any evidence that it is dangerous, yet we are still debating. Meanwhile, our fields are in disarray. The track and field team has no track to run on. And it's just disgraceful. The condition of the fields up there. I travel with the teams and do the radio shows, and all the stadiums that I go to are immaculate. They're turf. They are turf. Would I rather have grass? Yes, I would. But the turf makes more sense. These kids, the boys, the football team is playing on the field hockey field. The gentleman said there's no place for the baseball team to practice. I mean, what are we doing here? Come on. For what? Doesn't make sense. I'm almost there. The gym is the track, okay? This is what we're not looking at, all right? That these kids are going to be able to run and have sanctioned events. We saw the Powers girl running on the track off island, right? Why can't we have that? I don't understand. Well, we're one of the most successful communities in the nation, okay? And we have a tragedy of a field up there. It's unbelievable. My dad invented Whaler Pride, and that is exactly what it represents. So on the count of three, everybody, Whaler Pride.
Go ahead. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Brent Tartamella. I've been a Nantucket resident for over 20 years, a parent with 2 high school seniors, been on the school council for over 6 years. This morning I posted on Instagram a really good thought that we should file a motion at this meeting to ban rain on Nantucket, because Nantucket rain does contain PFAS. Now, that's absurd, I know, to make a motion to ban rain, but it's no more absurd than a moratorium requiring 0 PFAS and 0 microplastics as a threshold for compliance. 0 is not a standard, it is a ban dressed up as science. Even our natural grass does not measure 0. A couple comments related to tonight's meeting. I want to clarify a committee member's comment that I'm part of the community that is choosing PFAS. I'm not choosing PFAS. It was mentioned tonight that people are choosing PFAS because they're choosing turf fields, and that's not the case, and it could be known as a personal attack. I'd love 4 to 6 grass fields, right? Turf maintenance staff for the equipment, the mowers, the rollers, irrigation, separate grounds maintenance facilities. That would include housing, but those costs and intricacies are just not possible. And then it's really hard to take certain members seriously who are saying they're now really concerned about the health, the safety of our kids, the future care of the community. Where have we been with the drugs, alcohol, and mental health crisis that are all over this island and have been going over for decades? The Board of Health has not stepped in. They have not done programming. They have not addressed this. That's an immediate thing you could do today. The science is proven and it's already there. We don't need to study it. And that would affect everybody in this room, more so than the turf fields. Coming back to due process and integrity, I think there are some people that are stuck and they're lost. They've lost the capacity to think about this from a place of neutrality as a committee member should. We've asked that something be done about that, and nothing has yet. The quote earlier that referenced that we're making decisions based on what's potentially possible. If we applied that strategy across this island, I'd love to see the list of everything we're putting on a 3-year pause and the moratorium, right? The island economy would come to a halt. Testing standards, all I ask is that it's compared to our standard grass in current conditions And as you know, it was said earlier, but our current fields have PFAS and have chemicals and zinc and magnesium in them. And so what we are proposing and getting as less chemicals. And honestly, I think let the advocates and the experts in the high school and the water council, you know, if they're sitting in a room and they're going to hammer
20-second
something out
warning.
and solve it, then I trust in them. This is what the community wants, right? But we need to let it get to a vote at town meeting. 20 days away, school committee voted 4-1, finance committee recommended the project. Article 12 is in the warrant with PFAS testing protections already built in. And if you want to hear the community, we're here tonight. I'd love to see it go longer. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate Garrett. So just to kind of, I know there's been a lot of comments like there is no science and the research isn't there. I just would like to point out that the CDC and the EPA did conduct a multi-year study. I think it was over the course of 4 years of the exposure on synthetic turf fields using crumb rubber. And even with crumb rubber that everyone says is so bad, this is the EPA and the CDC. They found no consistent evidence of harm at typical levels of use. People do not sleep on a turf field. They don't stay there 24 hours a day. So I really highly suggest for those who are saying there is no science supported, please read the EPA and the CDC study. I think the final edit came out in 2024. And so it's so easy to say there's no science. The science is there. This is the EPA and the CDC. I know that as the board, you guys have relied heavily on the School of Medicine of Mount Sinai. Sarah Evans, she's also been cited and relied upon for this town, for this board. She has also very heavily highlighted the health impacts of pesticides, particularly for children. Why is the routine use of fertilizers, fungicides, and pesticides to maintain a natural grass field at the condition that it's in now, why is that not being held to the same level of scrutiny that this track is and this turf is? It doesn't make any sense. So the science is there. You're just choosing not to use the science. You want to use the science you want to use. In addition, for all of us who know grass, metals are also in grass, including iron, manganese, zinc, copper, aluminum, lead, arsenic. And that also relates back to the pesticides that go into the grass. So let's scrutinize that. In addition, the engineered track is a closed system. Why are we not scrutinizing Old South Playground? Why are we not scrutinizing the new playground that just went into the Nantucket Boys and Girls Club? Why are we not scrutinizing the playground at NIS? That's loose. The track is a closed system. Please go test all of that. Why isn't that getting tested? The exposure. Kids are picking up items and putting it in their mouth. High school kids are not running on a track and getting down and licking it. So it's just common sense. It's not being used here. It's not being applied. So if you are going to test and scrutinize the track and the turf, go to every playground on this island immediately. Close them down. Give it, no clapping please, but give it the same consideration that you're giving this process. It is not new. It is 13 years in the process. You can ask the gentleman behind me. He knows the history.
20-second warning.
4 years ago, it got cut down. It's now $7 million more to do this. Okay. Lastly, if you're going to put fear in this room and say that kids can go and get cancer from this in 15 years, I have to say shame on you. That is fear inducing. And that's something that is speculative and not supported by any current evidence. So I can't believe that we have a town board that is saying that for these kids to hear. It's a shame. Thank you.
By the current count, those who are standing will be allowed to, that will be within the time, and then that will be it for public comment. The currently standing individuals will speak, and then it will be time for public comment.
Hi, I'm Kit Murphy. I live in Sconset. Have never played sports for any school on Nantucket, have no children, grandchildren currently doing it. I was a high school and collegiate athlete, field hockey and track and field. And I stand before you tonight, and I know this is going to get me a lot of street cred with some members of this audience, but I stand before you with a completely blown out ACL. But what I'd really like to say is it seems we're moving the goalposts here. Until this meeting was noticed, there was never a mention of a moratorium. And now I'm hearing talk about, well, maybe just an emergency temporary moratorium. And through the chair, to John Giorgio, I'd like to ask a question. What's the difference really between the two? And would they not both require a 21-day notice? And I can do the math pretty well. 21 days takes us past annual town meeting. And that's why I think within the past hour or so, we first heard mention of a emergency temporary moratorium. And I just think that that's another end run backdoor around the issue at hand. Thank you.
Thank you. And at the end of the public comment, if you would like, we can ask Mr. Giorgio to answer that question for you. Go
Good
ahead.
afternoon. Good afternoon. I, like many others, prepared a statement and based
Your
on
name,
everything-
sir, and your affiliation.
My name is Kareem Taha. I'm the coach of the 7th grade girls and also father of Maya Taha on the soccer team. I'm a little flustered because I had the statement prepared based on what I read in the moratorium, but I heard some really good points. And one, I'm encouraged by kind of the facts that Mr. Shapiro was saying and Mr. Jericho was reporting. I guess I did hear Ms. Lepre say that I might have misused the word use. I might have misused the word zero. We've heard multiple people come up here. We're all kind of repeating the same thing because it's all important to us. With those two things being said, is the board considering, hey, let's pull this moratorium proposal because the wrong words have been used. Multiple people have come up here and we're all kind of saying the same thing. I'm not here to argue one side or the other in terms of chemicals or science, because I'm not a scientist. I can argue for why I think my girls have played on the turf 4 days a week for the past several years. And we go, when we travel off island, we always play on turf. But I would like to know just a question. Are we able to, can we get clarity on that you said, maybe I shouldn't have used the word zero, or maybe the use part of it, because I think that there is, okay, well, maybe we've gone a little too far, because that's kind of the argument that I'm making too. It's not scientifically relevant to say zero, right? Like there has to be some unit of measurement. Is that something that we can comment on, or should I continue reading my statement?
I would continue with the statement just
Okay.
because whatever language goes in the moratorium would have to be refined better anyway.
So then we can vote on that, or it can't pass at a certain time, right? That's what I'm trying to get an understanding of, that we're doing a motion, right? And I think, Madam Chair, you said, we're not going to say motion, we're going to say proposal, right? I'm just trying to get an understanding of what happens here. What's the impact of this moratorium? Where does it go from here if we're saying the language in it might not be what was intended, in all fairness?
Yeah, I think I would let town council answer that question.
Yeah, that would probably be one for town council.
Okay.
I think if what I'd like to do is finish the comments and then have the town council ask the questions that are,
Okay.
have a legal bent.
Yeah, it's just because it's what is written is not what we're looking forward to, right?
I
But it should
understand.
be open dialogue. Anyway, thank you for allowing me to ask that question. So, like I said, I'm the coach of the 7th grade girls soccer team. I'm really proud of them for being here and all the other players that are here as well. I want to start by saying I understand and respect the intent behind everyone on the board and how difficult this must be for you guys, how difficult it must be for the parents. We all in this room can agree that protecting Nantucket's sole source aquifer is crucially important. It's something everyone in this room can agree on. I don't think anyone here is saying, forget the water, right? Over time, a lot of good points have been made in this debate, but at a certain point, I'm starting to feel like we need to call this what it is. Because we are now getting dangerously close to a place where the language of science is being used to justify a predetermined outcome. Someone said, move the goalpost. Someone else said the dangerous fear-mongering talk. These are all things that are resonating with these children in this room. This should concern all of us that this language is being used to persuade a decision. Because good intentions alone are not enough. Policy has to be grounded in sound science, clear standards, and practical reality. And that is where this proposal breaks down for me, whether it's called a moratorium or a motion. As written, this proposal does not create a path to safety. It creates a standard that no material can meet. And when a standard cannot be met, it's no longer regulation. It's just prohibition. Someone said earlier, I'm not calling it a ban, but it really is a ban. Then we need to be honest about it and call it what it is. We are now at a point where PFAS can be detected at parts per trillion. Microplastics are found in rainwater. You've heard all of this and multiple people have said it. But when you require zero detection across multiple advanced testing methods specifically designed to find even the smallest trace, you are not setting a safety standard. You are setting a condition that guarantees failure.
That is time, sir.
Oh, my time was that question?
No, I actually added another 30 seconds
Oh,
on for that.
thank you.
No problem. And I apologize.
I just wanted to get clarity because this comment makes no sense if there was willingness to modify the moratorium.
I absolutely understand.
Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, my name is Erin Myers. I'm the mom of 4 Nantucket students. A lot of what was just said, I'm not going to repeat, but I agree with what was just said. But the board has an obligation to provide clear, accurate, and transparent information. None of the data that you are sourcing in your proposal has been provided for us. When you tell me that it's shown that these systems, artificial turf systems are shown to leach PFAS, micro and nanoplastics, that's a serious claim. It should have serious evidence. I struggle with repeated references to outdated systems and outdated materials and notions like the inability to recycle. We need valid evidence. The board needs to clearly identify which specific materials they're talking about when they're making a proposal. Any specific sources, turf systems being cited, even those in the letter from the Sierra Club that was just sent to you, talk about crumb rubber. We have to stop going backwards. We don't need general studies. We don't need outdated reports. We don't need materials that are different than the ones we're proposing. If you cannot provide this level of oversight and evidence, then this proposal does not meet the standards required for a valid and informed vote and should not proceed. We owe the community facts, not assumptions, evidence, not assertions. And my other final question is, are we going to hold the 312,000 tons of sand being dumped onto the Sconset Bluff project to the same standards you're asking for our turf field for our children?
Thank you. Go ahead over here.
Evening, members of the Board of Health. My name is Jenny Cook. I'm a mother of 4 Nantucket student athletes and a local soccer coach. I want to be very clear. What you're proposing is, for all practical purposes, a ban. A testing standard of 0 is not a standard, it's a stop sign, and everyone in this room knows it. While this drags on, our kids are the ones paying the price. They are practicing on overused, unsafe fields. They are more likely to get injured. They are unable to host home track meets. They are losing opportunities to train, to compete, and to simply be kids. And this goes beyond sports. Athletics are critical to mental health, especially right now. They give kids structure, connection, and a healthy outlet for stress and anxiety. They build confidence, they build resilience. And the data is clear. Students who participate in sports perform better in school. They show up, they stay engaged, they succeed. So when access to safe, reliable fields is limited, it doesn't just impact a game. It impacts their well-being and their future. I also want to recognize the elected school committee for taking the time to evaluate the science as part of their deliberations. I urge this board to carefully consider that same body of scientific data through the lens of both physical safety and the mental health of our Nantucket kids. And let's talk about the bigger picture because it matters. Delays like this have already driven project costs up by millions. If we continue down this path, the price will only rise further until this becomes completely unattainable. And when delay starts to look intentional, that's when trust starts to erode. This community has shown up, parents, coaches, teachers, the elected school committee. The need is clear, the support is real. But the kids, they're still waiting. So tonight, I'm asking you to do something simple. Stop delaying and let this community move forward. Because if the outcome is the same as a ban, then let's call it what it is and own it. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Graham Veazey. I just actually wanted to talk about two things that came up during public comment. And I also wanted to maybe answer some questions on that and then also ask a question of my own. So somebody did bring up recycling and I believe said it just gets burned or buried. There is a turf recycler for everybody. It's in Rockland, Massachusetts. That's where it will go. And they mechanically separate it. It's the best way you can recycle this stuff. So that is in there. It's in the Weston and Sampson report. It's a 300-page report and there's a ton of information on it. So they should look it up. It's there. The other thing was somebody brought up lawsuits. And I thought it's a fair question. And this is off the cuff, so I could be wrong, but there was a case in California that was, I believe, called Garcia versus United Mesa, and it's in California. It was a $31 million lawsuit that was settled. The school had to pay it. Unfortunately, a boy suffered a severely traumatic brain injury on the field, and it was due to deteriorating field conditions. And nobody wants to see a lawsuit like that, but it was a known issue at that school. I would say at this point, we're at a known issue. The school is addressing this because it is a known safety issue at this point. So what I want to know is that if the school, which is actively trying to fix this problem, and they are coming up with a solution for a school that exists with 4 schools on one tiny little campus, turf solves that problem. If you guys stand in the way of that and place a moratorium on that, you are stopping the school from solving their issue. So if something really tragic happens and somebody gets hurt, who is liable? Are you guys liable as the Board of Health? Because you forced them into this situation. They're actively trying to fix it. So that is an actual question that I maybe have to ask town council after, but it is a question to me because I don't think the school should sit with that lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Matthew Peel. Kind of feel like I'm in the twilight zone and nobody's actually paying attention to this meeting. I mean, we're not talking about a full moratorium across the island, no use, anything like that. They're talking about testing one field and going and looking at what they're going to put in. And, you know, from the 10 previous speakers, I didn't hear one person say anything about testing. Says, no, we need this field. No, we need this. That's not coming up with solutions or anything like that. That's throwing a tantrum. So, I mean, I really don't think either. And I've had numerous parents come up to me in the grocery store, people at the brewery, and say, we really love what you're doing. Please, you know, we don't want to see this field go in, but we're afraid to say something because we get personally attacked, or they'll get attacked on Facebook, or they'll be told that they don't have the right science or information or anything like that. So I don't think you guys quite have your finger on the pulse if this does go to town meeting. And you can register as many high school kids as you want for town meeting. It doesn't mean that the community necessarily wants this. I think they want everything else in it, and I think that the community would want to see the testing done. There shouldn't be anything wrong with that. We heard from the Land and Water Council today that what the school wants and what they want, they're not very close together right now. I don't know if they're going to come together at all. So that's something to very seriously think about. So, you know, it's up to the board where they go from here, but it's testing, I think is a absolute requirement for this. And it should be done to make sure it's safe. If, you know what, comes back all zero, comes back safe. Great. You get the field.
Can I make a point of order again?
We're not
Point of
gonna
order.
debate.
The speaker, could he identify himself and disclose that it's your wife that put up the proposal? Well, I think it's affiliation.
It's up to him to disclose that.
Yes, Matthew Peel, I thought I said my name in the beginning, maybe not. And yes, Meredith is my wife.
Then the
So-
the board member should have disclosed it for her, that it was her proposal and that's her husband.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name's Kim Latlip, and I wanted to speak to Ms. Leprey's motion and the testing she is requiring. I do think Steve from Weston and Sampson touched upon this, and he's probably did a better job than me, but I just wanted to let the rest of the board know that on Tuesday, I called Eurofins, the lab that Ms. Leprey referenced in her motion, to understand what these testing standards actually meant. And I asked them how many materials test at 0. And the man I spoke to just laughed. And then yesterday, I spoke with another representative, and I learned that the EPA method 537, which is the method that Ms. Leprey is requiring, is used to test drinking water. And using 537 on turf is like using a blood test to diagnose something in soil. EPA standard for turf or any solid material is method 1633, which, Mr. Peel, that is actually in the, that is the testing that the school is going to be using. If you read the reports, you'd probably see that. And then in Ms. Leprey's proposed motion, she stated that 0 PFAS using a method that doesn't even apply to the materials in question is not an attainable requirement, not for turf and not for anything. And that's a ban being presented as regulation. I just asked the board, I did my homework, why haven't you?
Final speaker.
How's it going? Doug Massey. I got 4 kids playing sports on the island. Just 2 comments. Just let it go to town meeting. Stop with the moratorium motion. Just kill it. Let it go to town meeting. Let the town speak. If it doesn't pass, we're at a moot point, right? And then if we do continue with the moratorium tonight, I regret saying this, but we got to add 3 items, okay? Dental floss, okay? Guinness, and Lululemon pants, all right? All 3 contain forever chemicals, right? So we got to add that to a moratorium if we're going to, protect all these kids. All right? Let the town vote. Thank you.
That concludes public comment on this topic.
Okay, thank you, everyone who has spoken up. I think it would be good to answer the 2 questions that were out there. One, as I understand it, is the difference between an emergency moratorium and a regular moratorium. And I think Mr. Giorgio can do that for us. And the other was some sort of a question about the possibility of changing the moratorium as it's written. Are you there, John?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I said earlier that in my opinion, imposing a moratorium as described in the motion would have to be accomplished as a Board of Health regulation under Chapter 111, Section 31C. And that requires a public hearing. I will say that in the town code, there is a provision that allows a town board to waive or to enact an emergency regulation if public health and safety so require. I think the problem with trying to shoehorn this into some kind of an emergency declaration is the fact that this issue has been brewing for, can somebody tell me, at least 6 months, maybe even longer? Why all of a sudden on April 16th would this be an emergency? I just don't think this would qualify as such. So if the Board of Health, and I don't want to dissuade the Board of Health, but if you want to proceed with considering a moratorium you need to, it has to be done by a regulation, which means a public hearing. And I don't, in my opinion, I don't think the way this motion is written provides sufficient direction, to be honest with you, in terms of how we would sit down and actually draft something, because I have heard comments from the vice chair about, well, maybe we could tweak it a bit. Well, yes, I think that it would definitely be necessary. But I don't know that trying to shoehorn this into some kind of fast track process is really going to fly based upon the amount of time it's been known that these turf fields were on the docket. So I hope that answers the first question about the emergency. And also the second question, which is, one of the hardest jobs that town council has is trying to figure out what people want to do, what boards want to do. And to be totally honest with you, I'll tell you right now that if the board said, yes, let's go ahead and draft a moratorium to consider, there's so many questions that I would have that I don't think that would be a very fruitful exercise without some kind of a working group put together with town staff and scientists and to try to hammer something out. That's not something that I think town council can do because it's too much of a moving target at this point.
Okay,
Can I ask a question of town council?
I think you can.
So I'm curious, with the current lawsuits that the town is in suing the chemical companies due to the contamination, I'm wondering if we put in a plastic field, and I'm again not a lawyer, I would think that they, when they went to settle these, would see, well, you obviously don't care, you put this in anyway. So how would that affect our stance? I'm just curious on your thoughts, how that would affect our stance.
Madam Chair, to you, to the previous speaker, I completely reject that connotation. That
All right.
going forward with some kind of a testing protocol, doing what the school department has done, it demonstrates to these litigants that the town doesn't care about PFAS. Frankly, I think that's a crazy position to take.
I apologize. That was not what I was trying to say.
And second of all, I think that it would be very what's the right word? It would be very inappropriate of me to comment on how this could or could not potentially affect litigation. That's not an appropriate subject for an open session with the Board of Health.
Sorry, my thought was more what are your thoughts about, we are in lawsuits against the chemical companies, I thought. I guess I wanted your thought on that.
My thought is you are correct. We are.
I'm not sure that's.
We are,
I'm not
correct?
sure that's relevant at this point in time.
Yes, the answer is yes, we are engaged in litigation, but I'm not prepared to have an open discussion at a public meeting of the Board of Health as to, litigation strategy or what the impact of what the Board of Health might do or not do in this regard could potentially affect that litigation. It's just not an appropriate question to be asked or for me to answer.
Sorry, I was thinking much more simplistic than that. I just was curious because we are in it. That was all. I was not trying to ask strategy or any of that.
I would like to ask John a question actually that relates to the moratorium because our next thing that we would do as a board is to evaluate where we stand. We have, as I'm sure you're aware, and everyone here, I hope, is aware, that we have not spoken with each other on how we feel about this. This is, we have two different proposals in front of us, but I am questioning you, John. almost sounds like the moratorium as written is not even possible to go forward or that we could take a vote on it. Am I interpreting that correctly?
I would characterize it somewhat differently, Madam Chair.
Okay.
At the beginning of this meeting, I set forth the legal standard of review for a Board of Health regulation. And I would be hesitant to suggest that the moratorium as now written would be legally defensible for a lot of the reasons that have been stated during the comment period. Could the Board of Health put together some language that would be quote unquote more defensible? Well, perhaps, but there would have to be some kind of that would have to be some kind of a collaborative effort, I would think, with all the stakeholders to see if you couldn't achieve something that would actually work. But as it stands now, I'm going to be very honest with you. I'd be hard pressed to figure out how to write the damn thing. Please excuse my use of the word.
Thank you. That was very clear. Thank you. So where are we?
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
So it seems to me you had agenda items B and C. You had quite a discussion led by Andrew and Jericho about the option B, which is trying to work out some kind of protocol with the land council in the school. And so I think if a Board of Health member wanted to make a motion to authorize them to continue those discussions, that would be an appropriate motion to take. And with respect to agenda item C, if there is a board member that wants to make a motion to pursue a moratorium and bring something back to the board at a future meeting, I think that would certainly be an appropriate motion that could, assuming it's seconded, that the board could vote on. But both motions would have to have a second.
Okay, thank you for your suggestion. I think it's a good one. Before we get to that, is there any questions or anything anybody wants to say?
I mean, could we put, I have said that taking away the 0 and taking out use, but I think, could we take some of the testing? Because I do think it's important to see what the results are. And I think that needs to happen before anything's put in the ground. And so I would like to see the testing that I recommended put into the joint. I mean, I think that we need more robust testing than what has been suggested. And I understand that that's only 80%, but I think we really need to do as much as we can. And I will say it doesn't have to be 0, but I think we need to do the testing. We need to see the catch basin report, and we need to see that in order to make a decision. And I don't think that it is fair to our community, to our voters, to, I have a problem with it going to town meeting, because I think without any of the testing, it concerns me. I think that if there is on both sides to do really extensive testing, then that is more palatable to say, like, we're going to do really thorough testing. And I would be happy to join the conversation to see because it sounds like where the Land and Water Council is and where the school is there is some space.
So at this time, we are absolutely planning on continuing to work on this agreement. Even if the Board of Health chooses not to, it's the health department. The health department has a vested interest in determining what testing protocols are going on. It's part of our mission, part of our job. I absolutely think that there is room to continue forward on working on the joint path. As to my knowledge, there is no path, agreement, no agreement. There will be testing. Even if nothing else happens, there will be testing on this material before it is put in the ground, as it stands now as part of the school's initial component to this. Identifying which particular type of testing, what action thresholds it needs to be at, and isolating the 3 different components to the testing and then figuring out what else needs to happen on this is an ongoing process that I believe we can move.
So sorry, never done this before. Point of order?
Sure.
Madam Chair, I heard a member of the board say that they did not want the article to go to town meeting. I would like to ask town council if that is considered voter suppression. Okay. Can you help me understand why that's not a thing?
She can have any opinion she wants.
Okay, but then and I really actually would love to speak to town council on this if he's able. If that opinion there so informs a proposed motion that is on the table, I'm having a hard time understanding the difference between opinion, motion, and then how it impacts something at town meeting. And it's truly like, this is where I've stood the entire time. It's a very difficult position for me to be in.
No, I absolutely understand. So just, and Mr. Giorgio, if you want to rescue me on this at any point,
How about if I
that
start?
would be fantastic.
How about if I start right now? So, in answer to the previous speaker's question, I don't know. No, it would not be voter suppression. Any registered voter can show up at town meeting, whether they're a member of a board or not, whether the board that they represent supports their position or not. But as a voter, anyone can get up at town meeting and make a motion with regard to this warrant article.
So you'll have to excuse me, counsel. I misunderstood the phrase and the term then. When I say voter suppression, let's take away that nomenclature. What I'm saying is that not an effort to, and my husband said this earlier, is it not an effort to keep? Forget I said that word, right?
Okay.
We forgot that some people said 0. So we're going to forget what I just said. Because
Okay.
I made it through high school mock trial, but I didn't think I'd be up here. So are we not then, while it's not, we're not keeping from people from going to town meeting, but we are potentially keeping an opportunity from voting on something. I appreciate that you're nodding. I really want to hear from town council. I've been
Yes.
seeking legal advice for months.
So I think the way I would phrase this is, again, any registered voter, including a member of the Board of Health, can stand up at town meeting and make a negative.
I mean, in this setting, when it is being proposed as a motion in this moment, that the article potentially would not, please do not shake your head and make eyes at me. I have a lot of respect for you. I don't understand. How
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I guess I'm not
how
understanding
a
your
motion
question.
can get
John,
brought up by
Madam
somebody.
Chair, may I?
Yes,
I've actually heard this from other people. If I may, Susan, I think
Yes.
this is where you're going for. So the Board of Health has nothing to do with setting the warrant. The select board does. The warrant is closed and duly noticed and signed. Town meeting is happening. This is a separate process. So I know this is complicated and motions and all this legislative procedure and et cetera. This is a very unique situation. Nothing like this in my time at select board or any other government that I've been involved in has been anything like this. So it is very confusing. But the Board of Health has a separate track of its purview on public health in the realm of PFAS. The warrant and it going to town meeting and everybody getting a chance to voting on it is happening 100%.
Correct. But then why would people vote for something that they have a 3-year moratorium on? So that to me is
Well, that's what we're debating. That's where we are.
okay. And I appreciate you taking the time for that clarification. And I think it's the crux of this issue beyond a lot of the things that have been brought up. And I appreciate further clarification.
100% understood. Thank you.
If I may,
Can I? Oh, sorry.
if I may, Madam Chair, given the requirements for the public hearing before the board could even contemplate a moratorium, that's not going to happen before town meeting. Because there's insufficient time for the Board of Health to act before town meeting.
Correct.
Can
Understood.
I
Thank you.
clarify what I was trying to say? It worries me to not have the test results, not that I was stopping it, that it worries me to not have that to present because it feels personally like it's incomplete to not have that result. That was what I was trying to say, that we wouldn't have those results to be able to
Make a fully informed decision at town meeting.
exactly.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I want to emphasize that based on
Andrew,
the
hi.
ongoing
Sorry.
discussions. Sure. I want to emphasize that based on the ongoing discussions between the school and the Land and Water Council, the material will be tested before it goes in the ground. And if it does not meet the predefined standards, it will be deemed unacceptable for use.
Right. Right. What I would like to say here, and I think it's at Mr. Giorgio's recommendation, I have full faith in the three parties that are negotiating, that they are giving it their all and doing their best, and that they will be able to come up with an agreement that is satisfactory and keeps the water and the children safe. And so I would hope that we can have a motion to authorize the three parties to continue negotiating a joint agreement regarding the testing and the ensuring the safety of this artificial turf at 10 Surfside Road. And to present a final version to the board at our next meeting on May the 18th, I think, or
I cannot
Yeah.
guarantee it will be at the next meeting.
Okay.
There are an enormous number of moving parts on this, and it is extremely sensitive to evolving information and evolving testing results. I can absolutely confirm that we will have a draft that will be presented to the board for input and push and feedback on. And so that we wouldn't be, the next time you see this agreement would not be the final document. It would be an agreed upon document to be reviewed and commented on by both the school, the Land and Water Council,
I see.
and the Board of Health.
Okay, well, I would just like to make sure that it is complete, the agreement, before the contract is signed. And
I
that
would
would
love,
be
I would
in the
love to
summer.
promise, I would love to promise that. I can't guarantee that all three parts of it will be done before like, I don't know if I can guarantee that the monitoring plan and the track issues can be ironed out at a particular time. I can assure you that we will have a finalized testing document, but I don't want to promise anything I can't.
Okay.
Who is on? I know it's the Land and Water Council, and then I guess, does the school committee have a representative? And then does the Board of Health have a representative that I'm unaware of?
No.
The Board of Health does not.
So
it's
does
been
the school
entirely
committee have
staff.
a? Oh,
No.
I
No,
don't know.
the-
I don't.
Entirely staff.
It's entirely staff.
We got the packet when everyone else did that said it was a proposed agreement between the Board of Health, the school,
No,
the
it didn't say
school.
the Board of Health. It
Yes.
said the Department of Health.
Y-
The health
says
of-
If that is the case, then it was in error.
That was a typo.
That's fine. I
That
just
was a
wanted to make
typo.
sure if if the school committee had a representative there,
doesn't.
and I wanted to make sure that we also had one. That was, I didn't know who, it didn't say who was on.
Not the board, intended to be the Board of Health. It's
I
been
I
these-
understand.
these
I can
guys.
tell you.
Yeah.
I can tell you now. It is staff only, and that includes staff from the various consulting agencies, the Horsley Witten, Weston and Sampson, Andrew, myself, and I think some school staff as relevant to like field and that kind of stuff. I think Chip and Beth were on it.
Okay, it didn't say on the paperwork. It doesn't.
Understood.
Okay, so, how do we feel about that? Does that sound like a path we can take? That we
Want to
would
go, Carrie?
authorize these guys to continue negotiating in good faith and work out an agreement that will provide adequate testing such that we know that the material that would come here to the island would be safe. Board?
I just would like us to have to approve this, that it is adequate testing before it goes to be, before everything is signed, that we've approved that there is adequate testing to protect our community.
At no point would we ever try and represent an agreement between the Board of Health without having the Board of Health weigh in on it. There's no chance that you wouldn't see and need a vote on this. This current vote is only to authorize continued work on this, and then the finalized document will be returned to the Board of Health before it moves forward.
I guess, would we be able to say we want more of what one, or, are we allowed to make suggestions along the way?
Once we bring back a document
Yeah.
to you, you will have input on it. Yes.
All right.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
A couple comments.
Okay.
I'm relatively okay with that, but I think one thing is that there's an implication that the school is derelict in their duty here. And I don't think that, I flatly reject that. And I think that the school committee and Dr. Hallett and the school staff has went through a very lengthy process in evaluating that. There's testing regimes in the warrant article and going to be in the bid documents. And I think it's fine for us to say, yes, we'd like to be delivered those test results, but this is the school's project. They should be driving, whatever the analogy is here, driving the bus on this one. And so if we want to make a motion to say that we bolster that they're going to do testing, then that's okay. That's okay. I guess I'm okay with that. I also just want to note that this process has been really hard, and I know everybody who's spent a lot of time on this, that trust has been lost in this process for a number of reasons. I don't know why that our board has had a bit of bunker mentality and secrecy. Somebody said to me the other day that you would think this is like industrial espionage or something. There's all this secrecy and packets going up 15 minutes before the deadline and not knowing the four corners of the debate. And I was as in the dark as anybody else. So it's been trying for, I'll just speak for myself here, for us. I also want to say that a majority of the board never decided that we were going to do this. This has been led by a member or two, which is, I guess, fine. This is where we're at. But this was never a directive by the board to staff to come up with either working with further testing or et cetera. And that's just not the way the process should go. We should have done 6 months ago. We should have designated a member or two to take a look into this, to work with staff, and then come up with the right. And it is what it is. But I think the public has been in the dark on this, and I apologize to every one of you for that. It's just not okay. It's not a good process. And on the moratorium, there is no scientific basis for a moratorium whatsoever. It's a political argument dressed up as a scientific argument. There is no such thing as testing for no, please. There's no such thing as testing for zero in anything. And we cannot go down that road. I highly urge my fellow board members to vote against anything such as that and let the school and town meeting have their say in this process.
Tom, so the testing that the school committee looked at was actually just testing on the 2 tests on the Brock infill and 2 tests on the shock pad, and that is it. They actually did not look at extensive testing. I just want you to know, because I was on this board and involved in this in 2021 and 2022 when the school committee discussed it, and they actually looked at much more extensive testing than has been looked at yet, which is why my concern is that testing hasn't been done. I agree they did a lot of meetings and they did a lot of community outreach, and I think that was great. But as far as testing, they actually did not look at, and what they looked at, the Brock infill or the Brock shock pad showed that it had it was only non-detect, it was non-detect because they set the level at 10 million parts per trillion. So if it came in at anything less than that, it was, but that's just what
We're hoping
testing
to do better testing.
yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think it is wonderful to work together to do some joint, to put together from both sides testing that should be done. I just wanted to point out that, yes, the school committee did a great job. I think that they just didn't have testing to look at because it hasn't been done.
I just need to say something to Tom. At no point was there any back office dealing or backroom dealing. And at no point has there been little posses that have gotten together and talked about it. As I said to you a few minutes ago, I have no idea, with the exception of Meredith, where any of you really stand on this. I believe I also said that I think that the three organizations are negotiating and discussing in very good faith. And I trust each of them to come up with a very reasonable, nobody was coerced to join this group of figuring out what would be the best testing. It's my understanding that the school entered into that very happily. And so I don't want anybody here to think that someone was coerced into participating in something that they did not want to do. So would there be a motion to authorize the three parties to continue negotiating a joint agreement regarding testing and making the safety of the artificial turf and ensure that, and present their findings or to present a draft at the next meeting?
Excuse me,
and then
Chair, can
have
I call a
final-
point of order?
Yeah.
Just like everyone else did? Okay. No, I'm serious. Thank you. This was in my initial comment, and I think in the full, hope of transparency, the Board of Health Chair sought guidance from, this is going to go back to an article in the Nantucket Current, from Michael Hugo. He works for the Massachusetts Association of Health Boards in drafting, he helped draft the two motions. I think it was denied that he did so, but the MAHB, it's very important to make this comment. Their intention is to provide guidance and education. They're not supposed to draft motions. I have email documentation referencing Mike's motions and plans to edit those two motions together that she had initially brought up on March 19th. That's not speculative, it's documented. That does feel like a lack of transparency. That does feel like bias. And really, that is a matter of public record. He also is a disbarred lawyer in Massachusetts. So we're getting information and getting advice from disbarred lawyers in Massachusetts to make decisions for our kids. Thank you so much.
I don't believe that that motion is before us at this time.
As a
It
point of
has been intended to be.
As a point of fact, MAHB is a organization that provides technical assistance to boards of health and health departments across the country, and it is a official organization that is supported by Department of Public Health.
Thank you for answering. And maybe town council can get on this too, but I sat in on the training that was done. I don't know, maybe what month that was. And even Mike Hugo himself said we are not allowed to give legal advice. So is drafting motions for a Board of Health legal advice? Just wondering. I think it's a very, very gray area. No, I am. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I got you. I just think it's good to know, like, because that does appear, I think, to the naked eye like human or legal advice. Is John Georgia still on here? Come back.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm here. I apologize. I'm not familiar with what's being discussed right now, and so I'm going to decline to give an opinion about whether it's legal advice or not, because I don't know exactly what the interactions have been.
Should I repeat it or? Okay.
I don't believe he's familiar with the specific background
Okay,
information.
I understand. I thought he just didn't hear. Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Carrie,
Okay.
looks like you have something you'd like to say after all this.
Well, I mean, I do want to say one thing and then I'll say something else. First is, and this is kind of comes from my background where, when I retired from, I worked with students. And one of the positives in this confusing thing has been student advocacy, the students standing up and talking and kind of getting their voice. And that, may be unfortunate that it's about this topic, but it doesn't matter what the topic is. The students came forward and are using their voice. And that's an important lesson just in terms of civics. And I hope parents and staff and everyone around them supports them in their voice, but also supports them in what advocacy is, which advocacy isn't, I say something and I get my way. Advocacy is stating your point and learning to listen to other points of view. So, I do really want to thank the students for using their voices. I guess the other thing I want to do is, I had notes here, but make the motion that the Board of Education, the Nantucket Board of Education, the Nantucket Land and Water Council, and the representatives of the Board of Health, which would be the Health Department, continue their negotiations to draft a mutually agreeable agreement that would hopefully would have the draft presented at the next meeting for us to further discuss and prepare for, motion probably 1 or 2 meetings after that, but to give you folks the time to essentially iron out. I mean, I know everyone says the golf is great. I really don't see the golf as being that great. The differences between the points of view, I really don't see them being as big as I've been in worse situations. Let's put it that way. So I think it's a solvable problem as long as we keep talking and stay focused on the health concerns, using science and scientific things, data and reliable tests, which I think has been pretty well supported with Andrew's statements. So I think that we keep going down that path. So my motion is to have the 3 parties continue their negotiations and present a draft, hopefully present a draft at next meeting.
Is there a second? All in favor?
You want to do okay, aye.
I mean, they're doing it anyway, but okay, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes unanimously. So that's what we're gonna do. Is there any other business?
I believe if the members of the Parks and Rec Commission are still on, they will need to end their meeting.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'll have to do so at the beginning of your next meeting. Aside from that, it looks like that is the end of the agenda.
I don't think they're still here.
I
Do you, Jericho?
think
Okay, all right, great. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.